First presentation tonight is recognition of Officer Christopher Wilson as Officer of the Month for October of 2018. I'd like to invite Captain Wright and Chief Roll to come up, and command staff to come up and do the presentation for Officer of the Month.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager's not here. On behalf of Chief Roll and his command staff, we would like to take this time out to recognize 3 of our officers and present them with the Officer of the Month Award. This is a very prestigious award, which some of us have received multiple times, some have received it once, and people like me have received it no time at all. It doesn't mean I don't work hard, though. This award is a testament to the officers' hard work and dedication in keeping the city of Homestead safe and its citizens. With that being said, Officer Wilson, he's being presented Officer of the Award month for October. We are running a little bit behind due to some unforeseen circumstances. Officer Wilson had a little hiccup, but Officer Wilson is a great officer, and just to give you a little synopsis of exactly why we're giving Officer Wilson the Officer of the Month Award. I'm sorry, Detective Wilson. In between October and now, he was promoted to detective, reassigned to the GIU unit, which is the General Investigations Unit. And when do you get reassigned? November. In November. So right after receiving Officer of the Month presentation, Officer of the Month Award, he was reassigned to GIU, which is General Investigations Unit. Officer Wilson, he began his career with the City of Homestead in January 16, 2016. For the month of October 2018, his stats, he was primarily on 220 calls of service, wrote 15 reports, conducted 22 subject checks, and issued 17 citations, and made 10 arrests. That's just his stats for the month. What stood out for Officer Wilson during that time, officers were investigating an armed carjacking on October 24, 2018 that occurred in the city of Homestead. The victim arrived home and was backing his vehicle into the driveway when armed subjects approached him. The subjects demanded the victim hand over his personal property and gave them the vehicle. The subjects fled the area and the victim's property and the vehicle. While officers were investigating this case, information was obtained that the vehicle was in the area of Florida City. Officer Wilson, Detective Wilson now, responded to the area where the vehicle was believed to be and located it back in with one occupant. Detective Wilson advised his discovery and began to approach the vehicle when the subject exited and fled on foot. Officer Wilson gave chase on foot and continued to advise what happened over the police radio. Officer Wilson was able to provide fellow officers with perimeter points, and the subject was contained eventually and taken into custody. The victim's property and vehicle was recovered and turned over to him. Officer Wilson's dedication and determination in giving chase on foot allowed officers to take a violent offender into custody. And like I said, along with other things that Detective Wilson did during this month, with that being said, it gives me great pleasure to present this award to him at this time.
Uh, Detective Wilson came from another department only about a year and a half ago. He's already a detective. Prior to him coming to Homestead, he was in another department for 7 years, so he didn't come into Homestead as a rookie. He just came in Homestead as a new police officer, so he knew what he was doing. We have a philosophy that we get the best of the best here from Homestead. And we heard about this young man based on what he was doing in another department. You know, we had to reach out and get him. And since he's been here, he's been outstanding. And I know everybody saw him walking up earlier. He was kind of hobbling a little bit, but he hurt his leg chasing that subject. But he got him, though. But they put him in the hospital for a little while. No, I'm just kidding. No, he injured himself, but this guy is unbelievable. I mean, you know, when you have guys that come in from another department and excel that quick, you have to recognize what these guys are doing. And Detective Wilson, I want to commend you. This is second Officer of the Month within, 6 months, probably? Within 6 months. This guy is on fire. That's what we need here in Homestead. That's what it's all about. So with that being said, I'm gonna give it to the mayor and I have Officer Wilson say a few words, and then we'll proceed with the presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. So it's with distinct honor that I get to present the certificate of recognition presented to now Detective Christopher Wilson from the Homestead Police Department. It states, "With gratitude, we thank you for your distinguished service above and beyond the call of duty. The City of Homestead salutes you." Signed the 20th day of March 2019 by Mayor Stephen Shelley, and on behalf of the City Council as well. So I want to thank you personally for your service to the City of Homestead, your dedication, and for helping keep our streets safe and our city safe. So thank you very much. And now I'll give the microphone to you to say a few words.
Good afternoon. Just want to thank Chief Rowe and his command staff for bringing me over from Florida City, and I'm loving every minute of it. I want to thank my supervisors on midnight shift when I was with you guys. It's all a team effort. I mean, I'm up here standing here, but like I said last time, it's a team effort. We should all be up here. I definitely can't do it alone. We work in conjunction with each other, and it's all a team effort. I want to thank Lieutenant Bryce Barker, along with GIU, for showing their support as well. And thank you.
So we also have we have recognition of Officer Eddie Rojo and Officer Joseph Rivera as Officer of the Month for December 2018. So now we'll go ahead and proceed with that presentation.
Both Officer Rojo, Eddie Rojo, and Officer Joy Rivera, they both will be receiving the Officer of the Month award for December of 2018. They both are receiving this award for one specific incident that occurred in December. It actually occurred in November, but the incidents or the occurrences that occurred after is what causes them to get Officer of the Month. On November 25th, 2018, at approximately 12 o'clock, two brothers were walking along the west side of North Chrome Avenue from 13th Street, and one of them noticed that they were being followed by a vehicle. At this time, two occupants of the vehicle exited and approached them. One subject then took the brother's wallet, while the other subject took the second brother's cell phone. After the brothers were robbed, the driver then used the vehicle to run over the second brother. The vehicle then reversed back over him and pulled forward again, running him over for a third time. The first brother then ran for help and located Officer Chevalier, who's, I don't think he's in attendance today, and informed him of the robbery. Upon Officer Chevalier's following the first brother back to the scene, he discovered the second brother lying on the ground unconscious and not breathing. He was pronounced deceased on scene. Miami-Dade Homicide then responded to the scene and took over the investigation. On December 11, 2018, Officer Rivera sent out a need to identify flyer with pictures of Homicide sent out a need to identify flyer with pictures of 3 males and 1 female they believe were involved in the above-listed robbery homicide. It was at this time that Officer Rivera recognized one of the male subjects from the flyer as a subject he had recently arrested while as a passenger in a vehicle which he had stopped back in June of 2018. Officer Rivera also recognized the female subject from the flyer as the driver of the same vehicle. Officer Rivera passed this information on to HPD's crime analysis, who in return forwarded to MDPD homicide. Officer Rivera's suspicions were in fact correct, and as of now, all of the subjects have been identified. This was the role that Officer Rivera played in this investigation. Officer Rojo, on December 20th, was on a subject check when he observed a black vehicle resembling the armed robbery homicide vehicle pass him. Officer Rojo communicated to his fellow officers, and a traffic stop was conducted on the vehicle, and the driver was identified. Officer Rojo's keen eye and ability to spot the vehicle resulted in identifying a total of 3 out of the 4 subjects. As a result, Miami-Dade Police Homicide was provided the information and ultimately able to complete the investigation and prosecute the offenders. With both of these officers' communications with Miami-Dade Homicide and also being able to recognize the subjects and being able to have a great memory on the things that they saw before time, led into the investigation, led into the information going to Miami-Dade Homicide, at which point, again, all subjects were arrested. Both officers' commitment to their profession and the community they serve is reflected daily in the way they tackle their duties and in the manner in which they conduct themselves. Officer Rivera both officers always display a high work ethic, and this case is but just one example of their ability to perform. And at this time, I would like to present both officers with the December of the Month Award. Month of December Award, I'm sorry. A little nervous, can you tell?
Again, go ahead on. Again, a lot of times people want to know why officers stop people on the streets and do FI cars on them. It's because of things like this. If Officer Rivera hadn't stopped that subject and did a FI card on him and remember who that subject was, we'd never probably find out who ran those people over. So, it's a reason why we do everything. I pretty much tell my guys, treat people with respect, but do their job. And when you're doing your job and you're out there trying to make sure the city of Homestead is safe, this is the results you get. So again, I want to commend both of those guys because outstanding job, working midnight shift. Nobody wants to be out there. We're home sleeping. I always tell them, I'm home sleeping at night, and the whole city is in their hands. So I want to make sure when I get up in the morning, everything is, I say QRU, that's police language, but everything is okay. And that's why, again, when I select these guys, from my command staff interviewing them, I try to get the best of the best, and I always said that. And I always try to get homegrown. South Dade product, Homestead kid. His daddy just retired, Detective Rivera. He's back with me now. So the things that his daddy did, the son is doing it. And again, within 6 months, it's 2 times he made Officer of the Month. He's only been here, 3 years now. Outstanding. That's what we look for in the city of Homestead, and it's a reason for that. And very quickly, Eddie been with us for a long time. How many years, Eddie? 19 years, and I don't never see him. He loves midnights. He's taking care of business, and I'm fine with that, I'm fine with that. But Eddie don't even talk that much. Good officer, never got in trouble. Just go out there at night, do his job. I mean, these guys are outstanding, and that's what it's all about. And I know a lot of times these guys, they want to know why I say the things I say when I bring them in here. I say it for a reason, because this is what I want out of these officers. It's not about men, it's not about us anymore, it's about the new people, and it's about the city of Homestead keeping everybody here safe. That's what we do. So again, thank you all. I really appreciate it. And Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. I have a similar certificate of recognition. This one's presented to Officer Eddie Rojo. Congratulations. And this is presented to Officer Joseph Rivera. Congratulations. And similar to before, again, thanking all of the officers that are sitting up here for your sacrifices that you make for us at the City of Homestead and to serve the city and to keep our residents safe. But also, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't thank Chief Roll and the command staff, because the only reason we have such quality officers representing us is because they have good leadership and they've learned from their commanders and learned from their superiors. And so I want to thank you guys as well for all that you guys are doing to help make sure that every new crop of police officers that comes through is holding the same standard and that all of us in the city can be proud. So thank you very much, and thank you guys.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. Just want to start by thanking my family. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. Next, command staff, you guys are awesome. Chief, once again, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be employed here. Really appreciate it. My supervisors, you guys make it pretty easy to work for you guys, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you also for everyone coming out tonight. I really do appreciate everything that the Homestead Police Department has done for me. I know Chief Roll, many it was through his efforts that I came on board the Homestead Police Department, and I'm always grateful for him for having me here, and I would like to continue showing my appreciation for all the command staff and all the support, my supervisors on midnight shift. Thank you very much, and all my fellow officers who help and support me every night and make sure that we all get home safe. Thank you.
The next presentation is recognition of AYSO Region 805, and that's of Homestead. That's Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you, Mayor Shelley, and I appreciate this opportunity tonight. I think this is my fourth year of being able to give the awards to the kids that go out and represent Homestead so diligently at the States for AYSO Section 805. And I appreciate them all coming here tonight. I know 5 o'clock's not an easy hour to get here, but we certainly do appreciate the parents bringing them out here. AYSO has been rejuvenated here in Homestead. We've gone from just a fall season to 2 seasons now, the fall and the spring. And I want to say that, Sam, there were, upwards of 600 kids that came out in the fall. And I know that we're full at capacity for the spring season also. So that is a great thing to see such an opportunity for our youth to go out and enjoy a sport and build camaraderie among themselves and the other children here in town, and to show their skills with what they love to do. But all that couldn't be done for these kids and this youth league without the backing of people on the board. And I, at this time, would like to call the board up because they are so important to this organization, and show them a little bit of respect and thanks for what they do for our kids here in the town. I'd like to call Lonnie and Kim Allen up. I don't see Abraham here. Is Abraham Jimenez? He hadn't made it yet, still at work. I know Sharon wasn't going to be able to make it. Elizabeth Steege, Noe Jimenez, and Sam and Monica de la Rosa. These are the people that make it happen each and every week for these kids and put in hundreds and hundreds of hours throughout the season and the year. They travel representing Homestead to different facilities, to different meetings, and do a great job for us bringing this league, turning it around, making it so strong, and doing 2 seasons instead of 1. So I've got a little certificate of appreciation for each and every one of them, and it says, in recognition of your contribution as a valued board member to our local AYSO Region 805 Homestead. Thank you for sharing your support, passion, and dedication for promoting youth soccer within our community. And that's signed by myself, the Vice Mayor, the Mayor, and all the council members in the City of Homestead. And Noe, here, you get the first one. Elizabeth. And this board is pretty much, I guess, what, in your second full season? They've taken over and, like I said, revamped the program and have pretty much a whole new board of all dedicated people. And so we certainly do appreciate it. And for Sam and Monica, who dedicate so much and have turned this league around and put so much time and effort into it, I thought something a little more different or for the two of them would be better. So Sam, if you'd hold that a second. Or I read it, and it says, in recognition of Sam and Monica De La Rosa for the support, dedication, and passion that they've shared over the years to the AYSO region. And like I've said, without them and all of their hard work and dedication, we would still maybe be at one season. So we certainly do appreciate each and every one of you, and we especially appreciate everything that you guys do for our kids here in town. Thank you. You want to say anything? That's okay. I've never seen you turn the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you guys very much. So, thank you. Thank you all for coming out. What this is really about tonight is for these teams that went out and competed and represented our city the way that they did. So, you know, this really, at the end of the day, everybody up here in a blue shirt, every decision we make is putting the kids first. We're very, very proud to do this. It's a complete 100% nonprofit organization, so everyone up here, you know, doesn't make any overtime hours or get any extra pay for that type of stuff. So it is a group effort, and we look forward to continue to grow, hopefully, you know, continue our great relationship we have with the city, helping improve our field conditions and pretty much helping us with whatever we need. They've been fantastic. So really thank all the parents for making the dedication, all you coaches, you guys are out there. Without you guys, they're the backbones of our league, and these great volunteer coaches, these kids that come out, build relationships. The older team that you see here that won, I've known them all since they were all probably 6, 7 years old. And it is truly an honor, and I'm really, really glad to be a part of it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. You're a hard man to find pictures of. We looked everywhere to get a good picture of you, but it was hard to find them. So we dug around and found a few of you guys, and we certainly do appreciate everything that you do for us. And like I said, you guys have done wonders for our youth, and we certainly do appreciate it. And Sam did allude to the fields being improved. We are working on that diligently. Sam, I gave him a bit of homework, so whenever he tells you kids you got to do your homework before you can play soccer, remind him. He didn't do his homework. We had to cover for him, but we got it. We're working. I gave him a chore that was impossible to do, as we found out. But we are working on the fields, and hopefully by the fall season of next year, we'll have some new fields for all our kids to be playing on back there at the stadium. You guys can stay up. Sam, if you want to stay up, or whoever. Okay. I'm going to go on to now. So now we go on to those that represented us so well at the state games. And for those that aren't aware, the state games were held up in Palm Beach, actually in Okehili at their park up there. And this year we didn't have any teams that came in first, but we did have a lot of great teams that ended up getting medals up there. And I'm going to start with our 10U girls, if they're here. Is Coach Miguel Rios here? And Lydia Reyna is the assistant coach. Yep, come on up. We've got Lizette Reyes, Isabella Pena, Genesis. I'm not even going to try your last name, Genesis. Damaris Espinoza, Amari Dodd, Giselle Medina, Vanessa Hawkins, Natalia Thompson, and Alina Campos. And I'm not sure which one's Lizette. Okay. Isabel? Huh? Genesis? Genesis? How do you say your last name? Owaga, okay. Damaris? Amare? Giselle? No Giselle? Okay. Vanessa? Natalia? No? Next. Oh, I'm sorry. The one with her name on her shirt. Alina? Okay. Coach, you want to say anything about your girls and what a great team they were this year?
No, I don't.
Come on.
No.
Tell us how they did up there.
They
No?
did great.
Okay. Well, anyway, these girls were the 10U, and they came in second place. Is that right? Yes. Second place out of about 12 teams, I think, that were in their division. Is that right?
Yes.
Great. So they did great representing Homestead. And so now they know what it is to win. And next year, I'm sure they'll come home as first place. So thank you and congratulations, girls. And we appreciate you going up and representing Homestead in such a great way. Thank you. Oop. Stay there for one more. Thank you. Next, we've got the 10U boys by Coach Christopher Gonzalez. Is Christopher here? I saw him at the gym this morning. I guess he didn't make it tonight. And Alvarado Delgado and Eduardo Lozano. He's not here. Okay. Alvaro.
This is.
You?
I'm on roll.
Not here? No. Okay. Whoops, I got it wrong. Thank you, sir. Yep. Okay, we've got Raymond Rodriguez, not here. Carlos, all right, he knows who's here. Efrain. Armando. Matthew. Alexander. Carlos. Yeah. Warren. And I know Warren played goalie because I saw him out there playing. And we talked about it there a little while ago. And he enjoys it. My son plays goalie for the U14, so they have a lot in common. But anyway, these boys went up and represented us in the 10U. And I think they came in second also out of the whole division there. So they did a great job representing us. They also got a taste for winning, and I know next year they'll continue the tradition as they go back. Coach, you want to say anything?
No, not really.
Come on, none of you guys want to talk. I hear you out there yelling all night on Tuesdays and Thursday nights and Saturday mornings.
Okay.
And you're here and nobody wants to talk.
I just want to say thank you to, City of Homestead and to all the AYSO. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Want to do like a kneel down or something? Good?
Real good game.
And they ended up coming in second place, but they went to overtime in their championship game. So it was a hard-fought loss. Thank you. Yep. Thank you, guys. And last but not least, and these gentlemen, young men, also went to an overtime in their championship game, and it's the 16U boys who are coached by Noe Jimenez, Juan Zapata, and Antonio Venegas. Look what you get, more stuff to hang on the wall. Handing things wrong. Adrian, I know where Adrian goes. Zachary, I know where Zachary goes. Jose Zapata, which one's Jose? Ian, not here. Didn't mean to hit you. Eduardo. Manuel. Alejandro, not here. Christopher, not here. What's going on, Coach? Sebastian, not here. Juan Pablo. Noe. Sterling. And Lex. And these boys are the 16U. They came in second place also. And we certainly do appreciate them going up there representing us in such a good way. Noah, you want to say anything?
I just want to say I'm very proud of this group. They're actually, we played on second on but we were playing on a 19 level. They were actually playing on the 2 years on. They're younger than on the whole division. And they came on second place, so I'm very proud of them. They were the last U16 standing, so actually we, Homestead here, got them our medal for the U16, an extra medal for being the last 16 standing. So.
Yes, I forgot to mention that for those of you that weren't there or didn't know. Because of the small team, number of teams in the U16, they played the U19 boys. So they were playing boys that were 2 and 3 years older than them and still did such a great job for us. They actually did better than our U19 boys. So a little bit of competition there amongst the city, but it was great to see them do so good. Congratulations, everybody. Job well done.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Burgess. Our next presentation is Women's History Month presentation. Councilwoman Fairclough.
Good evening, everyone. There's a lot of talent in this room tonight. Thank you, Vice Mayor Burgess, for that wonderful presentation, and congratulations to AYSO for a great job this year. I love when we recognize children, so I couldn't help but to mention that. But there's also a lot of beauty in this room tonight. I am excited to be here to recognize some phenomenal women in our community. March is an annually declared month for Women's History Month, so it's only fitting that we recognize some leading ladies in our community. Traditionally, March is designated to acknowledge and honor the contributions that women has had in our society, but more so the impact that these women has had in our society as well. So I would be recognizing some women who has been very impactful in our community and beyond. So when I call your name, if you would please join me up front to be recognized. Ms. Carrie Black, the CEO of South Dade Chamber of Commerce. Pastor Kay Dawson, Senior Pastor of Cathedral of Praise and President of the Miami Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Ms. Nancy Garcia, Chairwoman of the City of Homestead's Education Advisory Committee. The Bishop, Bishop Irene Staggers Harris, Senior Pastor of Greater St. Matthew's Holiness Church and President of the Southeast State Ministerial Alliance. Dr. Jean Jacobs, President of Miami-Dade College Homestead Campus. Ms. Yvonne Knowles, Executive Director of Homestead Main Street Incorporated. Ms. Audelia Martinez, the Chief Financial Officer of Leisure Dean Incorporated. Ms. Sue Newman, who is a top sales associate of Kai's Realty and team member for This Is for the Kids, is not here, but on behalf of her husband, Mr. Bill Tebow, is here to accept on behalf of his leading lady. Ms. Janie Oliveira, one of the hardest working distant assistants to State Representative Keone McGee. And just as we recognize those in our community, we have to recognize those ladies who help run our city. So with that, I'd like to acknowledge my counterpart, my co-leading lady on council, Councilwoman Jennifer Bailey. Our Assistant City Manager, Allison Love. Our Assistant City Manager, Ms. Kate McCaffrey. Our City Clerk, Ms. Elizabeth Sewell. Our Customer Service Director, Ms. Catherine Demerit. Our CRA, Community Redevelopment Agency Executive Director, Ms. Kamitra Driver. Our Human Resources Director, Ms. Vivian Minash. Our Utilities Director, Ms. Barbara Quiones. She here? I have not seen her tonight, but I still want to acknowledge her. Associate at Weiss, Seroter, Helfman, and Bierman Law Firm, Shanae L. Wood, Esquire. And if you are a lady, a female, a woman, please stand so that we can recognize you too. Happy Women's History Month to all of you. I thank you for the work that you're doing in our community. You are the hope and the inspiration for those young ladies, and looking at you, they are inspired that they can do what you do too. And oftentimes, it's hard for our girls to be what they don't see. They see you, and they're inspired by you. Happy Women's History Month.
Thank you, Councilwoman Faircloth. That concludes our presentation ceremony. We'll now adjourn and re-adjourn for the regular scheduled council meeting at 6 o'clock. I'd like to go ahead and call the Wednesday, March 20th, 2019 council meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. This evening, we will have the invocation by Bishop Irene Harris, pastor of St. Matthew's Holiness Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance with Councilwoman Faircloth and Homestead Police Explorers. Would you please stand?
Oh, Heavenly Father, we thank you this day, for truly it is the day that you have made, and we are to rejoice and to be glad therein. We come before you, asking you to always acknowledge us in everything that we do. We thank you this evening for the city of Homestead and for every councilwoman, for councilmen. We thank you for every position, the mayor. We thank you for the police department, every part that makes up this beautiful city. It is a city that sitteth upon a hill that cannot be hid. And we thank you for the unity that we have towards one another. We pray for one another, each and every family member, thanking you for giving them the proper mind to do the will of the city. Continue to lift us up. Continue to keep us safe, one by one and name by name. Order each and every one of our steps, and we'll give you always the praise and glory, and thanking you for choosing us for such a time as this. We believe in you, thanking you once again. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Faircloth? Here. Councilman Roth? Here. Councilman Guzman? Here. Councilwoman Bailey? Here. Councilman Maldonado? Vice Mayor Burgess? Here. Mayor Shelley?
Here. Additions, deletions, and deferrals. Any additions, deletions, deferrals? None today. Next is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to move the consent agenda? Do I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes carry. Public hearing.
Yes, please be advised the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you comment upon any of these items, please indicate the item number you would like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. Swearing in. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to either be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the council to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization, and further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Code Section 2-591, any lobbyist must register before addressing the council on any of the following items. At this time, council members must disclose any ex parte communications concerning any items on the agenda. Mayor, I'll just, for the council in general, there have been a number of emails that have been submitted to you all with regards to in opposition and support. Those are included in the packet. What wasn't included in the packet, they came after the packet was published, you received on the dais.
Okay. Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yeah, I had a discussion on the tab 12 with the applicant and their representation.
Okay. Councilwoman Faircloth?
Yes, I spoke with the applicant and counsel for tab 12.
Councilman Roth?
Same.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Same for me as well.
Okay. And Councilman Guzman?
Same for me as well.
Perfect. And then I as well, I met with the applicant and his representation to discuss this item, and then Councilman Maldonado, you indicated the same. Okay.
Right, hearing no further, at this time, I'll ask the clerk to swear in any persons who wish to testify on any quasi-judicial items. So anyone in the audience who is wishing to speak this evening on the quasi-judicial items, please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn by the clerk.
I. Please state your name. Hereby swear or affirm that the information I present shall be the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Thank you. You may be seated.
Tab 12 is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the development order for the villages of Homestead, development of regional impact, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Staff report?
Yes, sir. Staff is recommending that the mayor and council approve the attached ordinance which amends the villages of Homestead development of regional impact that ultimately redistributes residential, commercial, and mixed-use density acreage within the DRI. What we're doing here is that the Keysgate Trust is requesting approval of the notice of proposed change to the existing DRI. The subject property is about 84.96 acres consisting of 4 parcels located west of Kingman Road, south of Canal Drive, and Palm Drive. The applicant's trying to redistribute land, which is residential, commercial, and mixed use in density and acreage within the DRI. The redistribution will increase the overall dwelling units in 2 sectors, 10 and 11. It's going to add 134 dwelling units to those sectors. The units are going to come from sectors 1, 5, 12, and 13. All this is in a map and a table and some charts. The total number of dwelling units in the entire DRI will not increase. They will remain at about 9,860. The redistribution will also decrease the total acreage of the commercial and mixed use in the area, in units in sectors 10 and 11. So we're recommending approval. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
All right. Any questions for staff by my colleagues? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing and then invite the applicant up to make their presentation.
Go ahead. Thank you. Hugo Arza, offices at 701 Brickell Avenue. Pleasure to be here this evening. I represent the applicant and as well as Lennar Homes, who is under contract to purchase this property for a development on these 85 acres. I'm joined today by Carlos Gonzalez and Bruce Grunt of Lennar Homes, as well as my colleagues, Amanda Naljeff and Alejandro Arias. You will bear with me. I'm going to actually work you, everyone here except for Councilman Guzman, and it's a pleasure to be before you for the first time, sir. Know me, and it's usually a lot of boards. We're going to get a little sophisticated today. I'm going to have a PowerPoint presentation, so bear with me if I skip through something too fast or got to go back. I want to thank staff for their efforts throughout these last several months. I mean, this application was filed about midway, a little after midway through last year. There's a lot to digest. What we have here this evening is the first part of it. And I think that I had the opportunity, all of you, disclosed obviously that we had the opportunity to meet. And I think what you heard from us in those meetings and what you'll hear again is that obviously this is a two-part process in many respects. I mean, you have an initial NOPC change during which you have before you this evening, first reading, and that is the basis by which you can move forward at what we hope will be next month with the balance of the requests and most importantly, I think overall is what this development or project will look like. But you've got to sort of crawl before you run or walk before you run. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the NOPC in some detail this evening. Explain or address any questions or concerns that you have, some of which I've previously heard, others of which I have no doubt that you may ask me about this evening, so that we can hopefully get to a point where you all understand the big picture and everyone in the audience understands the big picture request that we are making this evening, and we will hopefully then be in a position to proceed forward next month with maybe some of the more granular details with respect to site plans and things of that nature. With all that said, the aerial we are talking about approximately 85 acres on the west side of Kingman Road between South Canal Drive and Palm Drive. The property, actually, the southern quarter or so of our property is on the south side of Town Center Boulevard. But the entirety of these 85 acres comprised of 4 folios are all part of the request that we're asking for this evening for the NOPC change. As with the entire Villages of Homestead DRI, and you're going to hear that phrase and that word often, the DRI and the Villages of Homestead DRI. This entire property has the same land use designation, PRAC, or Planned Regional Activity Center, and the same zoning, PUD, as the entirety of the DRI. And I'm sure that it will come up in a couple of occasions, but the DRI, which was originally created in 1975, has been amended a number of times, most recently in 2012. And I will show you the 2012, the current map of what the DRI looks like today, has historically and over time vested certain rights, certain development rights in these lands and in this property. And so what we are doing here today is shifting, allocating certain rights that exist globally within the DRI and making it so that the parcel of land before you this evening has the correct entitlements necessary in order to move forward next month with a site plan designation. Specifically, the request redistributes density, and we're going to get into a little bit of where it's coming from and how much it is, and we're going to specifically tell you from in the map and where it is. It removes certain commercial density that you have, and we're going to explain to you what that means from an impact standpoint to the neighbors in that community, as well as where does the commercial land remain after you've removed this one. It also removes the mixed use category. The mixed use category, for those of you that were sitting up there back in 2012, was created as part of the 2012 NOPC. It was never given a lot of definition, in fact, no definition. It was created as a category, but without necessarily enabling legislation. It has proven to be, quite frankly, a difficult category under which to develop because of that lack of clarity as to what did mixed use really mean. When we started considering this project and when I spoke to Lennar Homes, we decided that what made the most sense, and really in consultation and conversations with the manager and staff, that perhaps what made the most sense was to take away that designation for these parcels, call them residential, develop a residential project, and again, filter in the commercial that's still remaining in other locations. The next slide that you have, and it's a little hard with the lighting, but it does outline the entirety of the Villages of Homestead DRI. I think it's important to sort of understand because, again, back to the overarching concept of certain development rights and entitlements and density that is allocated already, that is vested already in this area. I think it's important to see when we say this area or the Villages of Homestead DRI, what are we talking about? Two things I would point out, and I think it's important because we're here with some of the remaining land that can be developed. There are still in excess of 2,000 units to be built within the DRI. That is, the current cap in density is 9,860 units, and you'll see that figure again in a couple of slides. And there are approximately, by staff's own counts, approximately 2,400 units total left to build within the DRI. That is, we're at 7,400 units, give or take. I mention that because when you look at this map and you recognize that where that star is, which is the property that we're seeking an NOPC change for today, only west of there, despite the fact that there is a substantial amount of land east of that star and east of Kingman, but as many of you have lived through, we now understand that the residential development east of Kingman is not going to be not going to be where there's residential development. And obviously, there was an NOPC in 2016 that sought to develop a parcel there. There was a challenge. And so I mentioned that, not to relive that, but to sort of point out that the balance of units that we will develop and that Keysgate DRI has a certain vested entitlements to develop will be developed west of Kingman. So basically starting where this property is and then wherever else there might be some property within that DRI. So those developments will occur, and they won't just occur in the entirety of the DRI. They're going to occur in the area that allows residential. I want you to kind of keep that in mind when we talk about where we're moving and sectors that we're moving and where we're moving from. On to the next slide. This gives you the current approved DRI master plan, and so this is really what we are seeking to amend this evening. The parcels right in the middle, it was easy to paint out. They look the cross red and white hatched. And the one parcel to the north, which is the 16 acres we're redesignating from commercial to residential. So if I'm able to if I had a pointer, this is where I am, usually I can just point to the board, the parcel just to the north of that cross-check red and white property, those 16 acres, and then the balance of those cross-checked acreage to the south. That is the subject matter here today. This is your law of the land, your land use, for lack of a better word, as it stands today in 2019. So what are we doing then? So we recognize that these parcels all have certain levels of entitlements, and that specifically these 85 acres today could be developed with 16 acres of commercial, and the balance, approximately 68 acres, 69 acres, would be mixed-use development. You know that the request is that all 85 acres be residential. So how do you get there? Well, you've got to redistribute in some respects the allocation that you have, because every one of the sectors has certain amount of allocation, whether it's for commercial or residential density. So when you go to the chart that you see up there, you will see that we are we're in essence moving units from 4 DRI sectors, sectors 1, 5, 12, and 13. I'll run very quickly through. So those sectors, in sector 1's case, right now you have 852 units approved there. There are actually, and that's what the land use plan says that you could build in that sector. 732, the as-built, that's what actually has been built to date. That's 732, leaving you with 120 remaining unbuilt units in that sector. We are taking 30. That is the last shaded category. You do the same exercise in DRI Sector 5, 275 approved, 254 have been built. There are 21 remaining. We've moved 20 of those. Sector 12, 1,086 dwelling units. None have been built in that sector. It is the only sector that has residential density that does not have any development. And I'll walk through the sectors more in detail in a minute. And we're moving 82 of those units. And then Sector 13, 139 approved, 136 were built. There's 3 straggler leftover units, and we would move those. When you add up those columns, you get to the 134. And I'll explain in a second what the 134 and why that's an important number for us. So let's take the 4 donor. I had to come up with some way to describe. So I have donor sectors and I have recipient sectors. So I have 4 sectors from which I'm moving density, and I have 2 sectors, sectors 10 and 11, and we'll show those in a minute, from which I am receiving or going to be allocating the density to, and those are the two sectors on which these 85 acres are done. In Sector 1, we're transferring 30 dwelling units. There are 18.5 acres remaining that could be developed there, but there are still then 90 units left to develop those there. So there is a little bit of land, some land left to develop there. This is a sector, and if you go back, this is actually at the very western edge. You'll see where it jags twice, just south of the, I want to get the name of the community correct, just south of Lakeshore, thank you. Right. Just south of Lakeshore there is Palm Bella Vista community, which has been approved, and those 92, and then there's a parcel that is outside the DRI, and then the corner parcel on the southwest corner there, that parcel remains vacant, would still have 90 units that could develop someday in the future if someone wanted to develop it. Back to, bless you, back to the donor sectors. We've got Sector 5, from which we're transferring 20 dwelling units. And if we come back, Sector 5 is the Northgate residential community, and then the school sites that encompass the balance of that sector. There is basically, there is no land on which you can develop any more residences today, because the vacant lots there are school sites, so the residential units would not be applicable there. So we are transferring 20 units from an area that is entirely built out or has simply school sites left to build where you could not build residential. Sector 12, there's no residence. So Sector 12 is the east side of the golf course. It's down at the bottom, and you can kind of see up there, Sector 12. That sector has 1,086 units. There's no development there today. It has entitlements, and you could develop up to 1,086 units. We are transferring 82 of those units, still obviously leaving the balance there. Right now, there is no development there, but obviously, there is still plenty of capacity or allocation. Even if we move these 82 units, there would still be over 1,000 units you could build in that sector. And then finally, Sector 13 is essentially built out. Sector 13 encompasses principally East Lake, where's Vice Mayor? It covers East Lake, that community. That sector is obviously built out. That community has been built out for some time. There were 3 units left over. So I had been asked a question, well, when we shift this around, I know it all comes from inside the DRI. Where is it coming from? These are the 4 areas where it's coming from, and so we worked them. So then where does it go? Well, so sectors 10 and 11, and 10 is our parcel north of town center, and 11 is our parcel south of town center. So the bulk of the request is sector 10, and then sector 11 is the balance to the south. Sector 10 is currently approved for 1,444 dwelling units. Let me get to that. For 1,444 dwelling units, and 929 of them have been built. There are 515 units available. We previously spoke about the 82 from Sector 12 and the 2 from Sector 13 that we are moving, and we're moving them into this sector. So we've got 515 plus 84 yields 599. Sector 11, which is the parcel just to the south of town center, roughly 16 acres also, currently approved for 1,084 units. 950 of those units have been built. There are 134 dwelling units available as of today. With this NOPC change, we would receive 50 new dwelling units, the 30 from Sector 1 and the 20 from Sector 5. Those 50 plus the 134 that exist there today yield the 184. If you add those two figures, you end up slightly north or in excess of the proposed site plan that will come before you next month. We obviously sort of requested the NOPC at a time, and then there have been some slight edits and modifications made to the site plan. So for those of you kind of doing the math, saying, well, that's a little bit more than what you're proposing, that's fine. I mean, as you can see, whatever ultimately we're fortunate to get approved, whatever is left over can then be moved later on by some other applicant, just as we are doing today. So obviously what you want to do is err on the side of caution. If you're proposing a project that has a certain number of units, you need to make sure that those units exist for development within those sectors. And so we do that with this. So from a practical standpoint, and these are the proposed development parameters throughout, and I've kind of run through all of this. We're reducing commercial acreage, and there would still be 36 acres of commercial acreage, and I'm going to go back and show you in the map where that's left to address or alleviate any concerns. Mixed-use acreage is being reduced obviously substantially by this request. We talked about the dwelling units that were moved, and then a number of categories which remain the same. We're not touching the industrial, the schools, the recreational, the open space, the golf course, none of that. All of those uses, this NOPC does not request redesignating or changing any of those in any way. So it's always kind of important. Let me talk about the commercial. I think it's probably a good time when we talk about the commercial, because we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to reduce commercial and add residential from an impact standpoint. But the northernmost parcel of our property, which is the solid red above the red and white checkered property, those 16 acres, today are commercial. As you can see, the parcel just north of it, what is known as the Keys Gate Sales Center site, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with, that site, not a subject of this NOPC, remains commercial. And as I referenced earlier, we know that everything east of Kingman will be commercial, and that in fact, even though that site to the east of Kingman, the Solara site, still does have a mixed-use designation, it will not for very much longer. That site is going to be converted to an all-commercial site pursuant to a settlement between the Homestead Speedway and the owner of that property. Obviously, this council is intimately familiar with some of those details. So, in fact, we know that those 19 acres, plus, in essence, everything east of Kingman, as well as the 14 acres north of our site, remain commercial. So in the near proximity, in the near area of this site, even though we are removing 16 acres of commercial and removing the concept of commercial in mixed use, we are still leaving very easily the 14-acre sales center site, as well as the Solara site, adjacent to and across the street, still providing the opportunity and the ability to have commercial land in the near vicinity. Coupled further with conversations that we had and explanations that we've given to some of you and conversations we had with the manager and staff, that obviously the city has undertaken some very serious efforts over the last 3 to 5 years to reorient your commercial development in large part to this area where we stand here today, whether it's this building, the police station, Miami-Dade College expansion, the public-private partnerships, the theater, any number of initiatives that this council and the city as a whole has tried to encourage, greater commercial development in this corridor. I think it's complementary that we would remove, and we'll see the impacts and what a positive impact that has, but that we would remove commercial from more of the edge or the fringe of the city and move it more towards the center where all of you are taking votes and incentivizing it and really where it makes a lot of sense. Not meaning that there will be no commercial, there will still be the ability for some, but we believe we can make this reduction without disproportionately impacting. Let me get back to the area or the slide I was at, which is going to be the next one after this. So I talked a little bit about the DRI. It was created in 1975. We're ultimately today asking for a change in sectors 10 and 11. What I thought was instructive is to pick some periods in time and where and how these two sectors have kind of shifted over time in the vision and in what the DRI was proposing that these sectors be developed as. In 1985, so after 10 years of existence, Sector 10 had 1,075 dwelling units allocated to it, same size that the sector is today, and had 1,815,000 square feet of commercial allocated to it. That's Dadeland, probably a little bit larger than Dadeland. So sort of grasp that concept, that at one point it was anticipated that perhaps that sector that we're now before you today for residential units could have accommodated Dadeland plus 1,000 units. And we'll show you what kind of impacts that would have led to had it been developed like that. Sector 11 had 993 units, did not have any commercial at that time. In 2012, the latest, so sort of the law of the land, let's call it, which you have today, you've got still 2,023,000 square feet that you could develop if you developed the entirety of, added mixed use, in the mixed use category, developed commercial, as well as developing the 16 acres of commercial, and you develop all of that. And in Sector 11, 1,084 units and 586,000 square feet of commercial. You fast forward to the 2019 NOPC that we're proposing, and you're gonna see that we end up with residential, but you end up with 0 commercial and a very, more modest amount of commercial activity in Sector 11. And so you may say, well, so what does this mean? So this chart now captures those same 3 points in time. In 1985, which we're calling original, the DRI existed before, but in 1985, it would have generated approximately 50,000 trips to develop the site in its entirety as it was proposed in 1985. In 2012, as it stands today, if you developed it with all of that residential, what exists, and then what you could add to it, and this large commercial component, you would end up at close to 60,000 trips. In fact, by removing the entirety of the commercial, you are reducing the impact substantially. And the explanation for that is because, as all of you know, and you've heard me say before, and I know you've talked to staff about, commercial generates a lot more traffic impacts. There is a lot more in and out, a lot more residences. Folks do come in, obviously, they leave in the morning, they go to work, they come back, maybe they go out one more time. In a shopping center or any commercial establishment, it's all day in and out, in addition to trucks, in addition to other elements that obviously are perhaps not the most compatible near large communities, large residential communities. Same exercise with Sector 11. Originally, the number of trips that it allocated, 7,400, as it stands today, developed under the 2012 auspices, you're looking at 28,000 trips. 2019 NOPC, that would drop to 15,000 trips. And so from a combined, I think we just went ahead and combined it all. You see, again, that stark reduction from the middle category, which is what you would allow today, to the 2019 proposal. When you look at all of this, again, you have to take that step back and understand both the nature of the DRI, the ability to develop the vested rights and the rights that the property owners in the DRI have, and then you have a difficult task and an unenviable one in some respects of weighing, well, where does this go and how do we balance these competing interests? We have worked hard, and again, I want to thank staff for working with us. We've worked hard to try and put forth the best plan possible for the development that we are proposing. A plan that takes into account the elements of the community and the surrounding community. A plan that respects and preserves those rights, those vested rights that the DRI may have. A plan that addresses and takes units from areas that are either substantially built out or have a lot of density and that you will someday look at and consider when somebody comes. But in at least 2 of the cases, we are basically taking units that in areas that are fully developed. And I think all of you understand in my conversations with you and in other NOPC conversations we've had, with the DRI and the concept of the rights that are vested in the landowner, it is a balancing act. It is how do we sort of balance the concerns that we may hear this evening about the impacts with the rights that there are. And so that's why I wanted to show that progression of how the DRI had been envisioned and where the impacts would be today if this change is approved. We believe this change would enhance and add a beautiful community, and you will have an opportunity to look at that more closely next month. We believe that it will help address the needs, housing needs that you have in your community. There's great interest in living in the city of Homestead for good reason. It's a wonderful place to live with great amenities, great schools. I had a conversation with that with the councilwoman, folks who want to raise their families here, and this gives them an opportunity to do it. A chance to have a world-class residential community developed in the aggregate, right? Not in pieces, an 85-acre community that can be developed as a residential community with all of the amenities that you would come to expect. One that also takes into account, we have neighbors. We are adjoining properties that are built out. We recognize that. But we are adjoining an area of Keysgate in which it's, in large part developed, but it's also prepared for this development. I've joked with all of you that the only piece of property I've ever worked on that's vacant next to a 4-lane road. Usually the road comes in after a developer says, I'm going to build this. But because it's the DRI, this road network was built. This area has always anticipated a strong amount of impacts. We've seen it. Maybe it was anticipating a lot of commercial. We're actually proposing a reduction in those impacts, but this is the correct location for that request. Obviously, as we move forward after this evening and into a site plan, there will be specific project considerations that all of you will consider. But today, at the view that we have, and I'm sure we'll get more detailed, but it's still the big picture land use view, we believe that this is the correct request both for this area and this community, and that it is consistent, and that's why we're fortunate to have a recommendation of approval from your staff. Happy to answer any other questions that you have. Mr. Mayor, I know that there are going to be some folks speaking. I would respectfully reserve some time to address any questions at the end. Thank you all both for your time this evening and the time that you've given me in the last few weeks, and I look forward to a favorable vote this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from my colleagues for the applicant? Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you, Mayor. Just, I guess, a point of clarification, because I know that I've received 2 specific letters regarding the golf courses. The golf course, because I don't read the golf course here anywhere. So can you explain why I'm receiving these letters and what they mean?
Yeah, so I've seen the same correspondence because we've obviously asked for anything that's submitted to the city to be forwarded to me. This application does not include any of the golf course lands. This NOPC is specifically to the 85 acres that I've probably bored you to tears about this evening. The correspondence we've seen refers to the fact that there's commonality of ownership between some of the owners of this property, technically the applicant, the Keysgate 3 Trust, and owners of the golf course, in which the correspondence we received states that the sale of this property will enable proceeds to be utilized to redevelop 9 holes of the golf course and to reopen the clubhouse. I've seen that correspondence. That's obviously not an NOPC question, Vice Mayor, so it's not something I'm going to...
But they include this piece of property in their emails saying, if this is done, this is possible.
Correct, and my understanding...
So those letters aren't binding in any way? No guarantee that that project would ever really happen or binding?
I can't speak to what those emails could bind anyone to. I mean,
Well,
obviously,
I was just wondering, because they do reference you guys in both letters.
You guys meaning?
The sale of the property.
The sale of the property, right.
property and that, meaning, and if this project is okayed.
The allocation of proceeds of the sale is not part of the NOPC request. So what your vote on an NOPC would not be binding on any of that.
But my vote tonight would not be binding that the golf course would be opened automatically either, correct?
That vote tonight would not, no.
Correct, okay. Have we had any neighborhood meetings with the surrounding neighborhoods? I know we used to require that as part of our things.
So yes, and I think you've got correspondence, and so representatives from Lennar have met, and they moved on me. Now they're sitting somewhere else.
But I'm not talking about just the delegates. Have we gone out to Centergate residents and all that? And the reason I ask, because I've got 140 signatures here asking for denial. So I was wondering if anybody had gone and done a good faith PR report with them?
I believe, I mean, is that one of the ones you guys got since, I mean, I haven't seen that, and obviously, Vice Mayor, you know our approach. If I'm contacted to meet, I will meet with anyone. We have met with delegates, and we have met with some folks, and that's what I was referring to. I don't think we've met with those folks, but since it's printed, I'm assuming that that's something you got at the last minute. It wasn't even part of the packet.
Actually, I received a sample of this, probably, I think some of it was put into the record at the P&Z board, and then some more perhaps were passed on today as a hard copy to us today. But I know in the minutes from the P&Z board, there were
I haven't seen
petition.
what that request says, but I can tell you, as I've told you many times, and as you know from your
So you're not
interactions,
against it if asked to go
We'll be happy to
out?
meet with them.
Right, okay.
Vice Mayor, if you're real quick, James or the city attorney, I mean, how do we handle, we just received this petition that the Vice Mayor is now referred to, so does that need to be specifically mentioned, entered into?
It's
James?
accepted by the clerk.
Yeah, the clerk, I believe, was handed that. She passed it out to all of us.
Yeah, so it'll be entered into the record as it's part of the official record, but I'm just looking, it seems that, I don't know if there are new signatures, but it seems to be the same petition that's in the packet that was presented at the P&Z board. I haven't gone line by line.
I think there's a few more here. I didn't remember. I think there were 3 pages in the package, and tonight there seems to be
Well, it's more just procedural
6 or
question
7.
than anything else. Is there anything specific we need to do to preserve any
It's
records?
just entered
So
into the
everything's
record,
fine.
it's part of the record.
Okay, that's all. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I'll wait until some other questions. I just wanted to get those couple of things out there. I thought that they were important because, as I stated, all of us, I believe, have received at least 2 correspondences stating that if this is done, the golf course is done. And I just wanted to be clear that that is not a fact. That is something that was written. It's not, these people are not obligated to do it. D.R. Horton, or excuse me, don't kill me, Carla. Lennar.
I think that ensures you'll be a yes vote this evening.
But I just wanted those letters and this vote tonight has nothing to do with the golf course. I want to be clear that and make that statement for the record and for the public that's out there watching and listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
And I'll reserve till later.
Councilman Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question in regards to the petition. How do we go about verifying that these addresses and names are correct? Is that something that we do normally when petitions are handed into the record? We just take them at face value?
In the
Staff.
past, I don't ever recall you all checking each name and address on the petition. You just accepted it into the record and gave it whatever, gave it the value that's on its face.
Thank you, Councilman. I did have a question as well. So I know you guys are looking to transfer the density. And I get where that's a benefit for the developer because you're taking what could potentially be unused parcels, especially those that have already been built out or reached their capacity, and trying to make use of those somewhere else within DRI, which is all, I know, allowable within the process and within in the legal ramifications of it all. But my question is, I know my biggest concern with this particular proposal and then ultimately the site plan and some things that will follow has to do with the density, the increase in the density. And so for me, why that 770? Why is that so important? Why transfer those units now for this particular parcel? Why not use what's available right now if this was all converted to residential, which is 134 units less than that? What is the need for that? Is it market driven? Why that request?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. I mean, it's a number of factors. I mean, there is market needs and costs that are fixed throughout development and the need to provide for, the community and the size. It is also, in Lennar's experience, the ability to develop a cohesive community that has, different types of products. When you lay it out, and it's difficult because I can't point to it, it's not up here and it's not before you, but when you lay it out, that community works. I know some of you have had an opportunity to tour one of those communities, and when you see it in practice and built out, you'll see why having a larger community that can support a clubhouse, that can support having enough land that then you can set aside pocket parks and the like. What you might get if you don't transfer the 134, let's say, might be a development based on what you would have today, but because certain costs are fixed, you may lose out on some of that other stuff, right? I mean, you may have to develop the land and not be able to provide some of those other elements. And so what we think we've done is by adding the density that we need to build the entirety of the community, we're able to also build a better community, provide for some of those amenities, those areas, those green spaces. That site plan will have no open space variances, no landscaping variances, none of that nature. We can do it without a problem and offer some of those things. And so, again, difficult question to answer without being able to point to some of the things, but we believe that it makes for a better project to finish adding. The other point, frankly, is because some of those areas don't have the ability to develop that, and because you already saw what's left in the DRI and how many units are left to be built, you're going to see developments that are like this. And in fact, our development is very consistent with all of the other ones. I finally get to use a board. I'm very excited about this. I mean, the entirety, everything from here, and I'll turn around to the neighbors, everything east, all of this is multifamily. In fact, our site plan will include single-family homes, but everything else here is multifamily, condos, and the like. So, we think we are compatible in that sense, and we think we are consistent even with the change.
Perfect. And I don't disagree that you would probably be compatible. I mean, that's one of my concerns, though, is the fact that everything else already is multifamily. And
one other question on the density is, I apologize.
Go ahead. Finish your answer then.
One of the other points on the density is we are still within the density that is allowed. One of the comments, and again, because I had all of the items before me on planning and zoning, I had to get into some more detail. It's not an NOPC issue, but one of the comments were letters that you all received that I'm sure you've seen saying, well, no one can build more than 6 units to the acre in Homestead. How can they build more than 6 units to the acre? Well, the DRI, you can. And in fact, a lot of the DRI is built with more than 6 units to the acre. Everything I just pointed to, whether it's Palm Breeze or any of those other communities, because the DRI has higher density thresholds. You can go to 10 and in some cases up to 20, and we're nowhere near that. We're below 10. But we are adding density, but still within the allowable limits. And so I think just important to understand that this would not in any way trip up the underlying PRAC land use that you have, which does cap the per acre density.
Right. No, I understand that. But again, what I was saying is that, one of my biggest concerns is the fact that, we already have what I think is an overabundance of townhomes and condos and other multifamily style houses. I know that's the most profitable thing or cost-effective thing, I should say, for the developer. So I understand there's market forces. I understand there's other things. We've had those conversations. But overall, that's one of my biggest concerns You know, and so that's why I asked the question about transferring some of that density over. I mean, I'd rather see, if you're going to build multifamily, build as few as you possibly have to in order to make the numbers work, if that's what you're looking to do from an economic standpoint, versus trying to then add additional units and then, you know, kind of, so that's just my own, it's my own personal thought processes, and just wanted to ask that question. So that was the reason.
Respect that, and I look forward to being able to maybe expand on that answer a bit next month, because I think we'll be able to dig into some of the products and why the products and why the amount of the products and a lot of things that I think it's going to be very difficult to discuss today, and because it's not before you.
Right, but it is relevant because of the transfers
Sure,
happening today,
sure.
so that's why the question.
Right.
Any additional questions before I open it up for Vice Mayor Burgess?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess just for everybody's that may not have been able to read everything that we had, could staff tell how many variances and what the variances are that they're asking for on this particular site? I know the site plan hadn't come forward yet, but I think that some of that stuff is relevant as we make decisions here.
The number of variances on the site plan. Let me get an exact number for you.
Okay. And while we're doing that,
One variance on the site plan.
4?
One.
One. And that is what?
Roadway? The road width.
Narrowing of the roadways, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to get clarification because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there too as far as what they're looking for. So I'm just trying to clarify it for everybody that's out there. So the only variance that the city is looking at on their site plan, which would be the next step in this process, is the narrowing of some of the roadways, correct?
Yes, sir.
To Mr. Maytan, I guess, because he'd be the one here tonight. How would this project and the approval of 770 homes affect our trash collection? I know you told me that you had some concerns, and that with the amount of capacity that we can pick up and the amount of equipment and manpower that we have at this today.
Vice Mayor Burgess, when I went through the review process on the solid waste side, we looked at not allowing the super cans. We were allowing like dumpsters, because dumpsters, if we had to do 700 and something super cans, we won't have the man staff or the equipment. So what I did is on the review side, I asked for dumpster enclosures, which would help us in a long run on equipment and manpower.
And I ask these questions simply because they've been put out there by the public, and I want to make sure that as many of their questions are answered as can be. And one of their big concerns also that was brought up is water and sewer, and the capability of the city to handle the required water that's going to be out there, and the sewage that's going to be, because we all know that we're passing sewage on now because we've exceeded our capacity. And with the water restraints that South Florida Water Management puts on us, as we look forward and go to this many, I mean, we know that there's that many units out there. Can you just clarify for the public what the concerns are, if any?
On the water and sewer side, which I have worked with the architect on this project, there's no sewer capacity issues. They do have the capacity in that area. We do not have no capacity issues. Water, we don't have no capacity issues. We could still handle that projects.
Right, and like I stated, I'm just at because I know that these were brought up at P&Z and questions that are asked of me because as we have all spoken in our famous sewage and water rate increase lecture that we got from the manager about how some water and stuff is running short, so people are concerned, and then the sewage pass off that we do to the county. Thank you, staff. Now I go back to Mr. Arza. I know that you say that these roads were looked at in the DRI, but the DRI and those roads were all designed prior to a PUD being put forth to the north of this development and things like that. So I disagree that the roads can handle it, and we spoke of that at our meeting. I don't know where and we spoke of you speak of trips, and I kind of disagree a little bit because unfortunately our folks have to travel for every single thing because we have no commercial other than at the end of that one road. So everybody's using that one road, and if you've put 770 units there, I would say you're going to get close to 2,500 trips a day out of just that neighborhood, coming and going to work, from work, to school, from school, because school buses are not a reality for some reason in the city of Homestead in the surrounding area. So the moms and dads all have to leave with them, with the charter schools and all that, that most people use. So I don't know, how does your, and if the city wants to answer, how do our traffic engineers see this being an okay project with 770 units and probably another 2,000, and I think I'm being conservative, 2,000 trips per day added to one road and one entrance to the turnpike that unfortunately was designed 6 or 8 years ago and is already failing, although it has improved the situation for its residents. Mr. Cordino?
Well, the short answer is that the DRI for transportation is vested. So the units are already approved, the capacity is vested, the units should fit within the capacity of the roadway network.
So I've always stated that we need to be more proactive than reactive. How is the city going to be proactive in improving this road if this project is to take place?
How is the city going to be proactive in
Improving the traffic situation on Kingman and the one entrance to the turnpike and the surrounding area, as another 2,000 trips per day will be added into a very small congested area already, with a school at one end of the road and a turnpike entrance at the other, which for 2 hours a day in the morning and 2 hours a day in the evening creates complete deadlock on that road? I don't want to hear we're vested. I want to know what the city's thought process is as we try to move forward to improve and allow these units to be built, because as you state, they're vested, the unit that they've got so many quota left out there and that, but the city is sitting here allowing these things to be built with no forethought or anything for the future of what's going to improve and help our citizens that are already here.
the city wanted to be proactive about that, we would study the traffic out there at the critical intersections today, and then after the development, and then we would mitigate if it passed a level of service threshold that was unacceptable.
But a level of threshold goes over a 24-hour period?
Well, you could look at it, typically you look at intersections or links in the peak hour. You could look at it daily, typically the peak hours.
Okay. Because I know when I go to get up and leave my house at 5 in the morning, they're already backed up getting on the turnpike at the one end of the road. And then from 7:30 till 8:45 at the other end of the road, the school has it in complete standstill at that end of the road. So I'm just wondering what the city could do. And if we put another however many trips in and out of there in the morning, families coming and going to work and to school, I have trouble realizing how it's going to, anybody's going to get anywhere.
Again, like I think what we could do to look at it and determine is what the existing condition is. What are the
I can
what are
tell
the
you
roads?
it's an F.
Then we would look at it in the future after the development, or you could even project the development upon it, figure out the net impact of the development, and then somehow the city would need to mitigate that impact.
So there is a remedy perhaps for the
There's
city.
always a remedy. It's really
But
figuring
not
out
at a great expense to the taxpayers that are already here.
you've got to figure out who's responsible for it. So legally, I believe that the development within the DRI is vested, therefore not responsible for that. Those trips were effectively included on the network, as you'd say, when the DRI was approved, which was, I think, back in the 1970s. So the mitigation would have to come from elsewhere.
Which would never happen.
Unless you can find
It's inside
elsewhere.
the DRI, where are you going to pull mitigation from?
You would have to work with the county or the turnpike and get those projects put into a 5-year work program and be funded through those budgets.
And I just put out there as a fact that it took us 10 years to get an on-ramp, and we're 6 years behind on 328th Street, and they're a year behind on their projected finish date. So those two entities that you say to work with are kind of a lost cause, unfortunately, for the citizens that are already here living this nightmare on that road every day.
It's a slow process.
Yeah. So I guess it goes back to the mayor's point, is that the only people that make out here with this many units on this parcel of land are the shareholders of Lenore Homes, because the poor citizens that are already there are going to suffer through the traffic every single morning with that many units out there. So I would concur with my mayor and say that we need to really re-examine what you're asking for out there. I mean, I know that the rights are vested. I know that the land is potentially zoned to go that way, but I think we really, really need to look at what's being offered as the product and the number of units out there. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any additional, before I open it up to the public? Councilman Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Arce, I wanted to ask, has the applicant considered less density? Is there a second plan in place if the 134 units are not included on this application? Have they considered that, or is it a deal breaker?
We have not. Sure. I think you need to be sworn in, Mr. Gonzalez. I think the clerk will.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name, that the information I present shall be the truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Okay, so, Carlos Gonzalez with Lennar Homes, 730 Northwest 107th Avenue, 3rd floor. In answer to your question, we looked at this carefully, right? Knowing that although on this site, many of you have mentioned, wow, it's a lot of density, right? Notwithstanding that there's 2,000 overall, we have run the math. The reality that we're dealing with in the housing crisis, actually, that I think we're in, is land is extraordinarily expensive. Development costs are exorbitant. They're actually higher today than they were in '06, right at the peak of the boom. And vertical construction costs are the same. So all said, right, as we look at it and we look at the dynamics of absorptions and so on, if we reduce the number of units, it simply wouldn't work. Not for us. I'd like to just also add one thing that you said, Mayor, was, that I think there's this misconception, right, that sometimes more is more. It's a very delicate balance when you look at development as to what really works overall. And so, if you thought, oh, wait, we could add 50 to the acre in different pockets throughout the county, it could be an absolute loser for everyone involved, right? Albeit the buyer, the developer, and so on. And so that delicate balance that we did look at, understanding that everybody usually wants less, just doesn't work in this case. And doing pure single family doesn't work. The basis doesn't work. You sell at a much lower pace, so the economics, unfortunately, just wouldn't work.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So when I think about units coming there, I also think about the alternatives. What is, if it doesn't happen, then it's left with commercial and other stuff. So I just wanted to put that out, that I considered both options. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Faircloth.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I understand and respect both sides. It's tough. The density was and still is a big concern for me. But I'm looking at what's before me right now, and for my clarification purposes and for the edification of those who may not understand all this legal jumbo stuff, let's put this in layman's terms. So basically, we are not, well, this application is not we, the application is not increasing density or dwelling units. It's redistributing, right?
That is correct.
So what is being asked for is already allowed within the DRI. It's just being moved to a different parcel. Is that correct?
I wish I'd said it that way. It would have saved us all like 20 minutes.
Like-
But I'm contrary to belief, I don't get paid by the word, but I did have to explain the more detail. But yes,
You
that
have
is
to sound
exactly right.
fancy, I know, but we need for our people to understand. I'm a
Yes.
teacher
I think I
up
used
here.
the word redistribution at one point, but it got lost with mumbo jumbo. I get it.
Just moving stuff around. And I know the decision, the site plan and all that is a lot of concerns that we have, But that part is not before us right now. And knowing full well that the decision that is made tonight will eventually impact that portion or that process. But for right now, this is about allowing different dwelling units to be moved from various parcels to the other.
Correct.
Just a redistribution.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
My question to Joe. So this proposal or this application meets all of the legal requirements. And this passed, I know there's one dissenting vote from the planning and zoning. I read all the emails that were sent to me. I looked at the signed petition. So I get it. I really understand both sides. But I just kind of wanted to bring home what is before us and what that means so that everyone can kind of digest what is happening tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Yeah, the only thing I would, I agree with the way Councilwoman phrased it, because I think she made it very clear. And so I think that for me, there's no dispute about what this is as far as redistributing, that you guys have vested rights through the DRI, that there's certain things that you guys can do. You know, I think though also the way I look at this is more of a longer term effect. And unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily specifically apply to your property, but it applies to the way I view the entire city and the density that we do have in there. And so, yes, we can redistribute that amongst all the parcels, but we as policymakers, if my goal is to limit the number of additional units and the density of those units going forward, then the goal is to actually try to encourage the developer to build less units per area. At some point, they will build out all of the land, and there will be remaining units that are left over. We don't necessarily have to let them use all their units. They have a right to try to get them, but that's the pull and take or give and take of the council versus the developers is, you know, what do they need to make their project work, but what do we have a view of our city? What do we want it to look like in the future? And is it higher density? Is it the kindleization of the community? Or do we want to try to have a balance where, you know, we have all the density we want to try to reduce the density going forward? And so that's really more of my thought process is, you know, how do I work with the developer or other developers to find a lower density in all the remaining land such that maybe I don't have 2,400 units left to be built. Maybe it's something less than that, but everybody wins. So it is redistribution for this particular parcel. That's what you guys are asking for. But I'm looking at it more of a bigger picture, and that is what is best for the city as a whole, not only for me as a current resident, but future residents, and what can we do to make sure that the city of Homestead continues to be unique and different in Miami-Dade County and not just like our neighbors to the north, which I think is why most of us don't live there. So I just wanted to be clear on that as well. So I think both have very good merit. Both arguments are very valid, but it's just different thought processes and different viewpoints. So,
thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. To staff, the allowed number of residential units in the DRI, give us that number again, the total, and then obviously what would be left over of what they're asking for now. They're asking for how many homes at the moment?
9,860 units is what the DRI is.
How many of you guys right now are talking about? What's the number that we're talking about for the homes?
The
residential
site
units.
plan would be 770.
770 homes. And then I'll wait for staff to give me a number.
Number I have for the approved residential units are 9,860.
9,860 units.
That's allowed.
That's allowed to be used.
Total
So out of that,
approved density, yes.
so we're not even covering a whole 1,000 of that. 9,000. Okay, now I just wanted some numbers for the record in regards to what they're asking for and what's still left to be built.
Total remaining is 2,416.
Okay.
2416.
460. Okay.
9860.
That's what I'm asking for. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any additional questions or comments before I open it up to the general public? All right, seeing none. How many people in the audience are looking to speak on this item? Only because I'm trying to do efficiency here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and come up, state your name and address for the record. Form a line maybe kind of toward the back so that there's some sort of rhyme or reason to who speaks when. And then the first person can come up and speak on the item. You'll have 3 minutes on the speak. So.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to say thank you to the mayor
Name and address for the record, sorry.
Oh, record, oh, sorry. Evelyn Martin, 2565 Fairways, and I live in Keysgate. I'd like to say hello to all the councilmen tonight and councilwomen, to our city attorney, city manager who's not there, and our mayor, Shelley. I've been a resident of Homestead for the last 18 years, and I've certainly watched the rapid growth in our community over the years, particularly the past 7 or 8 years. Growth in our city is good. I'm not sure why people think it's not. It's good for our city. We need more development here because this is where everyone's moving. We're becoming the hot spot, obviously, of South Florida. You know, and how are we going to handle that? Yes, there's going to be more traffic. I think we all know that. I don't even know where you even go in South Dade anymore that there isn't more traffic. It's everywhere. So we're going to get it here, whether we like it or not. This is our opportunity as a city to secure a quality builder. This is a builder that actually cares about their developments. I visited Lennar's property, Artesia, which has the same mix as what is being proposed here for the 770 dwellings. The outside, the first thing you notice about Lennar's property, and I'm sure if I asked anybody on this council, you would know. What's the first thing you notice? Their landscaping. Their landscaping is lush, it's beautiful, and when you go in there, it gives you a feeling of being home and in a community. Now, I went into all the dwellings that they had at Artesia, and I have to say, they're beautiful. The interiors are nice, the product they use is beautiful, the street appeal, everything about the whole facade of their development is a community that you would want to live in. We're talking about a quality builder. Are we going to turn it down? If we do, what happens? What are we going to end up with over in that corner, which is right behind Keysgate, which I've lived in, I said, for 18 years. I love Keysgate. I wouldn't vote for anything that I didn't think was going to improve our community. We need this development. I attended the Planning and Zoning Committee the other night. The vote was 3-1. They recommended this. City of Homestead staff is recommending it. I suggest as a council and as a long-term resident of the city of Homestead that you support this development at Kingman. Uh-oh. Thank you. Thank you.
Come on, coming up next.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Thomas Panels. I am a multiple owner in Centergate. I approached the council in this serious matter, noting that my ignorance on the subject may dilute the intended message and attempting to assuage council members to table this proposed development. I feel it is my civic duty and duty to voice my opinion in a respectful manner. Many elected officials throughout the years have ran on the agenda that collectively Homestead would not evolve into our neighbor, Kendall. Have we abandoned that notion? I submit to you that perhaps we have. We may be on the precipice of tipping the iceberg, giving into special interest, whose only motivation is to develop and move on, paying very little attention to the quality of life overall, without forward-looking perspective. Instead, the intended product is designed on a small scale in a standardized method without any regard to unintended consequences. That burden is shifted to the CDDs and the city, created, leaving the developer without anything but the proceeds, no responsibility going forward. Is that equitable? We implore the council your best consideration moving forward and value the input from your residents and your constituents alike. Do not allow Homestead to earn a dubious distinction of Little Kendall. Abandon archaic dysfunctional Euclidean zoning, adopt and trend towards performance-based zoning, i.e. Miami 21. Urban sprawl, blighted areas, community and neighborhood segmentation, traffic snarl, safety and environmental concerns are all components that you, our elected officials, must pay attention to. Hence, allow for urban shift to occur naturally while preserving heavily invested monies into the historic district. Explore infill opportunities with some verticality in both office and residential mixed-use projects. A bifurcated approach is not too late. This will promote public transportation, increase walk scores, increase efficiencies throughout city services. It is conceded that property rights are to be upheld. However, entitlements to the land in its rightful owners is not a given, it is a privilege. Read John Locke. He pretty succinctly points that out. Entitlements must be granted in harmony with the community, while many facets must be taken into consideration. Please don't make this business as usual. Ask these questions. Do any of the communities in the master plan besides villages have a decent walk score to schools and neighborhood centers? No. Has the proper independent traffic study been conducted, noting the existing traffic nightmare without commercial? Will the proposed projects have manned guard gates? Every realtor will tell you that existing communities do not, and that the mechanical gates are always up, and when not, traffic stack is frustrating, not to mention the crime component. With the new projects, have a Keysgate community standards overlay, or will it be competing with off-site managements? If the project densities and project are not approved, does this deal dry up?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You state your name and address for the record, please.
Say again?
Name and address for the record, please.
William Tebow, 2835 Fairways Drive. I know all of you, been here a long time. Manager, Chief, Council. Actually, I've been here in Dade County since 1974. Some of you weren't even born then. I've seen this county grow, grow, grow. This morning, it took me 2.5 hours to deliver my wife to the airport so that she could go and see her grandchildren. It's going to get worse. Quantitatively, you know, we have 4,000 homes in Keysgate. I didn't count the homes in the villages, but I think we're pretty dense as far as number of units in the DRI. You're going to give another 770 with this particular proposal, and when it comes time to do section 12, where the golf course is, and if we only get a 9-hole golf course there, you're going to be able to put 1,600 homes in that area. That puts everybody on Palm Drive, Kingman, Tennessee, South Canal Drive. This is chaos in traffic, and it's chaos for 3 schools also. I'm concerned that infrastructure couldn't even provide water, all kinds of services. It's going to end up being the city, the current city, that's going to have to mitigate the cost of supporting this community. I listened to all of you. You all spoke the right words. This is a conflict of quality of life, and it's going to impact us all for a long time and the future, because I can see another 2,000 homes coming in here after this one. So I don't think they ought to build 9,864 units in the DRI. I think we ought to have a better quality of life for all here and for those that come. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Tucker Gibbs. Law office is at 3835 Utopia Court in Coconut Grove. I'm here tonight representing Keysgate Condominium 7 Association and Rick Medeiros, who is the president. I'm just here. My clients have directed me to state that they object to this application and urge you to deny the amendment to the DRI. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Chuck Schumacher, and my wife, Pam, and I have lived at 1972 Southeast 21st Court in the Palm Isles Estates neighborhood of the Keysgate community for over 11 years. For purposes of identification only, I am the Keysgate Community Association delegate for Palm Isles Estates, as well as the elected chairman of the Keysgate Association delegates. I'm speaking tonight, though, as a Homestead resident. Mayor Shelley, Vice Mayor Burgess, and council members, thank you for allowing me to address the council this evening. I am here to request your approval of the Lennar NOPC. 5 of the Keysgate delegates, including myself, actually went out to a Lennar neighborhood similar to the proposed Kingman development. We went there to see for ourselves what the proposed development to be built in our area would look like. We were pleasantly surprised and greatly impressed with their housing development. We all agreed that it was better looking than the equivalent Keysgate neighborhoods. As a Keysgate homeowner and a Homestead resident, I would be happy to have the Lennar development along the west side of Kingman Avenue. I understand that Lennar has worked with the city and made changes to the development as requested by the city. I believe all the legal and infrastructure requirements have been reviewed by the city staff, and these requirements have been met by this development. The city staff recommends approval of the NOPC, and so does the Planning and Zoning Board. I respectfully request that you vote yes on this NOPC. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Who's next? Come on down.
Corrine Lowe, 2645 Southeast 20th Court, Homestead, Keysgate, Centergate Community. Thank you, and thank you for taking time to consider this. You have a lot on your plates every day, I know. I want to separate out supporting development and not supporting development. That's not what this is about. This is about a request for a variance and what we're looking at on this table. I do support the development in the areas that we're talking about. I do not support the request for the variance for an increase in density. I'm going to tell you how it is living in Centergate real quick. Born and raised in South Dade. Been a lifelong fan. I'm excited to be in Homestead. I have a lot of pride here. When the DRI was written in 74 and amended in 85, I don't care whether you say 34 years or 44 years, the target demographic group at that time were retirees, snowbirds, people from out of state. They might live here full time, they might just be here in the wintertime. That was the target demographic group. I live in Centergate. Let me tell you, that's not our demographic group right now. We have multi-generational families. We have an increase in the number of vehicles per unit. We have an increase in the number of pets. We have an increase in the number of people. I'm not saying it exceeds the capacity. You can have 4 people in a 2-bedroom, but historically there was 1 or 2 people in 1 car. Now we have grandma and the daughter and the 2 grandkids, and we have several vehicles. It is oppressive. I plead with you to think about your future constituents that will be living in this new community. I support the development. I think it's going to be good, but this density is ridiculous. If anything, we should be having a lowering of the density, not an increase. I'm not going to be living there. I am speaking for the future residents. Please make sure that there's open space and recreation. Yes, I hear that the percentages are unchanged, but is that green space and recreation in the DNR, is that accessible and usable by the people that will be living there? And there's a big difference. A vacant field a mile away is not an accessible, usable open space or green space. I thank you very much. Just recognize that the demographics have changed hugely. And I don't think that's really being discussed. It's smoke and mirrors to say, well, we're going to shift some here. It is a redistribution, but think about the people that will be living in those tight corridors. Thank you.
Thank you.
I need to be sworn in.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I.
I,
Please state your name. State your name.
Darlene Polo Kramer,
Hereby swear or affirm
hereby
Swear
swear and affirm
that the information I present
that the information I present
shall be the truth
shall be the truth
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
That's kind of funny because I was volunteering at Biscayne National Park today, this afternoon. I do it on Wednesday afternoons, and at the visitor center. And I must have sworn in 8 junior rangers holding, which just kind of reminded me of that. Anyway, well, I'm here to support it. My son and his girlfriend live in a townhouse in Minneapolis without a garage. They have had 40, 80 inches of snow. They'd love to live in a single-family home with a garage and lots of area, but they can't afford it, just like a lot of people who are going to be living in these townhomes. Many people, I'm sure they would prefer having a home on an acre, but we have to realize what it's like to be purchasing a home for your first time nowadays, and this product is going to be good for them. It's a decent neighborhood. They're moving to Homestead. I have to tell you, when we first bought in Homestead in 1999, many people in Florida looked at us and said, why Homestead? I mean, they still do. Within the last 5 years, asked me that question. I say, because it's a lovely community. That's all I have to say. I hope you support it. It's all going to be okay. Thank you.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Darlene Polo Kramer, 2816 Augusta Drive, Homestead. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comments related to this item?
Councilman, Mayor Shelley, good evening. Mr. Mayor, having been a member of the Building and Zoning Board in the neighboring city, Florida City, I tend to ask those questions when it comes to a situation like this where you have individuals who are opposed to something, then you have other individuals who are in agreement, and then you have your body who has to make a decision that is going to benefit or be a hindrance to whomever. I'd like to know if the developer, in fact, my greatest problem with the growing in the density is the traffic. Could through the mayor, could you ask the developer if they could go ahead and put in the infrastructure before they start building the homes? Because when we had all of the houses built in Waterstone in the Oasis area, we built the homes before we built the roads to accommodate the people that were moving in. That is one of the reasons why we have the problems with traffic that we have now. If you were to go ahead and build the roads before you build the homes, then it would be a more acceptable transition from the greater density to the amount of traffic in which we are going to face. We're going to face the traffic one way or the other, and development is going to come one way or another. So most of the time, business wins out, money talks. And they're going to be able to build based on their current zoning, whatever it is they want to build. So we have to agree with the developer to look at the good or the benefit of the people who are going to be living here and who are already here. If we get the road and the infrastructure in place first, then that would make the transition much easier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this is where the rubber's going to meet the road. I feel that iconic singer Prince, Lil Red Corvette, slow down. All right. Now, what we're looking at, this is going to be a determining factor on who runs this city. These people out here don't want this. They are concerned about the density. I'm concerned about it. It takes me 35, 40 minutes to drive to work. Now, what we see up here is a group of politicians. We see the people back there, and we're going to find out who runs this city. Is it the developers, or is it our community? Politics is a strange thing, strange bedfellows. So this is going to be a determining factor, and it also will be a determining factor when we go to the polls. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Quick question to address. One of the public had made a comment or question about the infrastructure, and so I think we discussed it or answered it earlier, and that is, unfortunately, all of these trips are vested under the DRI, correct, for these particular properties. So unlike some places where we would have concurrency issues or we would have other means in which to recoup or otherwise find a way to improve the infrastructure before development occurred, since these have all been vested, so to speak, we can't, as a body, mandate or require them to. Now, obviously, the developer could more than welcome to propose some sort of approval if they'd like to at their own expense, but we can't stop or we can't mandate. Is that accurate?
That's correct. In fact, I think the infrastructure on the roadways are already built. The roadways are built out, and the same with the water and sewer.
Right.
That's built out as well. So it's all there. It's all capable of handling the development as planned.
Right, correct. And so unlike some other developments within the city where we had that ability and have that flexibility to kind of say, hey, we need this, or you propose that, this is one where they're essentially vested. We have no ability to negotiate again unless it's a proffer by the developer themselves. So it'd be great if we could, but unfortunately not available, not a tool in the belt this time. Let me go to my colleagues first. Any additional questions or comments from my colleagues before I give it back to the applicant for any responses? Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think we find ourselves in a situation that it's about split out there of those for and those against this project. And I want to point out maybe just a couple of pros to the addition of 770 units versus a Dateland-type shopping center out there as well. I've heard a lot from the community, and commercial development is really not what they really wanted out in that area. The chess match of moving some units from this place to this place is not that meaningful to me. It's just a redistribution of where the units are going. I think that the density of the commercial is actually disappearing. Is that correct? We're going from about 65, 70 acres of commercial down to about 30.
Yes, sir. There's less commercial in the DRI after this change.
So based on the information that was provided by the applicant, the number of trips through Kingman would be diminished as well, almost permanently. So I too this morning, do I very rarely leave Homestead at 5 o'clock in the morning, but I did to go to the airport. And I think somebody else mentioned that. I would have liked to have been knowing that. I could have sent my passenger with them. It too took me over 3 hours round trip. And when I saw the news this morning, there was an accident on the turnpike. So I sympathize with those that have to drive every single day that turnpike. There's good and there's bad to that. The good is we live in an area that people want to live in now. 15 years ago, nobody knew what Homestead was. 25 years ago, when they were starting to think about Homestead, Hurricane Andrew came through here. And I think I heard tonight that someone mentioned that, yeah, Homestead was being developed as a retirement community. That was very true. Keysgate itself was built that way. After Hurricane Andrew, the demographics changed tremendously, and retirees relocated after the storm. Lakeshore was the same position. 700 units out there in Lakeshore were built specifically for retirees that were going to use the base and their medical facilities out there when that base was active. So the demographics in our area have changed tremendously. I looked at the development from 2003 through 2008 in our city. And you look at the density that was put in Waterstone, Malibu Bay, and Isles of Oasis. Every single person that I speak to living under those density conditions love their neighborhoods. What I'm saying is we have a very tough decision to make. And I was never for the tremendous density that came in 2003, 4, 5, and 6. But people love Homestead. I love Homestead, and I want to protect Homestead as well. I don't think the NOPC change tonight is going to dramatically change the makeup of the east side of Homestead. I do want to add one thing, that if this passes and your site plan passes next month, I heard trash cans mentioned. And I heard dumpsters are going to be substituted for trash cans in that community. However, I don't know too many single-family owners that are going to walk out of their house, walk down the street, and put trash into a dumpster. So I might want to look at that condition.
I think that was just for that. Yeah.
Sure.
Councilman, what it means is with the townhomes, we're doing dumpster enclosures. The residential will still be super cans, but you're only looking at around 176, I think, which is a lot better than 771 of them. Just like the mail service, they now get away from mailboxes. They make one box now for communities because then you have to have more staff and more trucks. So that's what we're trying to do in solid waste. The one thing I did want to bring up on this project, the county has a water main smack in the middle of their property. So Lennar and them will have to move that, and that will be going down 152nd Avenue. So there'll be some construction going through there. Just want to make that a point now.
So with that said, I'll turn it over back to you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll reserve for any further questions. Thank you.
Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I just wanted to say that I also agree this is a very tough decision. I visited Artesia as well. I met with the Keysgate delegates. I spoke as long as they wanted to speak to me, to any of the residents that reached out. This is an area I don't visit often. This is my area down here in the Southwest. But obviously it is a very important decision. I agree that the community did look beautiful. The insides of all three different models were gorgeous. We were actually lucky enough also to run into a few of the residents. They all had very positive things to say. So that being said, I appreciate everybody who came out today. Nobody wants that growth. We all want to live in a small little town, but the reality is that if we want our downtown to succeed, if we want to bring more commercial here, this is a necessary growing pain that I think we have to go with. One thing that I think would bring a positive that wasn't mentioned is this should be driving up a lot of property values. So that's something else that I thought should be mentioned. And one quick more question about the garbage. Are there recycling dumpsters as well?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Recycling dumpsters? How would that work?
The community, when they ask for recycling, and usually in the dumpsters, they will do dumpsters or green cans, one of the two, by the dumpster enclosures. But usually we like to get them a dumpster enclosure. If not, they have the right to get a recycling super cans.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. A few points that I'd like to point out. First is the commercial component. You know, we've always known that there was a lot of commercial density that was in the area, and you know, we've seen over the years that nothing's really grown out there in the sense of commercial development. You know, I sat on a Beacon Council, and I've attended a lot of meetings in Miami-Dade County in regards to what is the economic development in Miami-Dade County, and people have always asked me, you know, why are we not bringing more jobs and more development? It's because if you truly understand the economics of Miami-Dade County, it's trade, tourism, and finance for the most part. And all of that happens around the ports. The airport's the Port of Miami, and all the businesses are basically surrounding that area. And so, you know, I had this conversation with one of my residents in regards to, you know, bringing more commercial. And I was like, listen, you know, we can't open a port here because our waterway is protected by federal land. It's a protected waterway, so there's no way in the world that we'll ever get a port down here to drive that type of development. And so, you know, that's one of the commercial points. The other one is that I'd like to make everyone aware that it would be good to move commercial away from here and make sure we keep it in the areas that we want it. And one of the areas obviously we want to drive some commercial is down to the downtown area. And so, and removing that commercial density from over there, we're hoping that it now pushes into the areas that we'd want it more, where the more commercial would seem a better fit, downtown and some of the other areas that we still have available for development. That's two. You know, I'm hearing the density issue, and I, you know, from the residents, and I live in a community that's about 13, well, I have my district, I think it's about total 3,500 units. And the Malibu Bay, which most of it is a Lennar project, by the way, it's the most sought out community in Homestead. Sorry, Keys Gate, sorry, Northwest, sorry, everyone else. But everyone who's coming down here, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, you know, Oasis, all right. They have the same type of product, but nonetheless, those are the folks that are coming down here and they're purchasing those houses, because I've had a lot of residents that move from Miami, young families that are starting out, and they've moved into our community. Why? Because they love the product. They said Homestead is beautiful, it's great. Yeah, it's a little bit of a drive, but the quality of the community and the house that we get is a better product. And so living in this type of product, I can tell you that it's a good product. It works. And Councilman Roth mentioned it. A lot of the neighbors that live there love it. They walk their dogs, they're jogging, they're exercising, they're doing all these things. Yes, the one concern I would push when it comes before us is to make sure we have the green space available for the community, because that was something that was not heavily pushed when we were developing the whole east side. And we understand why that happened. That was a different time. They wanted to get the product out. The city was almost bankrupt, so they wanted the rooftops, and so that happened quickly, and the council at that time maybe, you know, didn't think that through, obviously did not think that through properly. And so we're in a better position as this council has grown to understand what are those issues from that development. So I would almost see this as a good development that's going to happen. So less commercial in the area. I see residential as opposed to commercial. And so that's where my sentiment is right now. And again, this is again moving for the NLPC, and you know, the distribution of the homes, I'm okay with that. That's it.
Thank you, Councilman. Go ahead, Mr. Arger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very brief because I think a couple of your colleagues have hit on the points. You know, one point I do want to make, I mean, one of the speakers talked about, you know, developers coming and leaving, but now Councilman Maldonado's, you know, sort of mentioned, Lennar's been in this community for a long time. They did not leave during the downturn. They stayed and finished those communities and have continued, are currently developing other communities within Homestead. I mean, this is not a developer that is built one project and left. They are there. Their president's been Mr. Gonzalez for most of that time, and he's become a face and a person you know you can call, and if you've got an issue, if you have a concern, and talk to them. I think it's important to mention that a lot of times they get lumped into one. Well, they're going to build and leave. Well, Lennar hasn't done that. You know, they've been in this community now for 20 plus years. Obviously on the traffic issues, and I won't put it back up, but the reduction, and I showed a slide, the reduction from what you could do today if you built out residential and commercial versus what we would propose as all residential. It's the penultimate slide, I believe. It's the one that says sectors 10 and 11 combined. It shows a significant reduction in traffic, and we've talked about that in terms of the infrastructure and the impacts, and some of you have alluded to that, but you had that data and you can look at it. And the nature of that type of impact, right? I mean, commercial development will not just be in the morning or in the evening when folks are trying to move around to get to jobs and the like. It's actually then going to be around later into the evening when we're all at home and maybe just need to run out for something. And then on the weekends, right? Because, you know, commercial establishments get actually very full on the weekend. And so you're actually introducing traffic into that area in a greater amount. That actually will, we believe, impact the quality of life even more than having more residents living in a beautiful community that will be part of your community. You know, again, a mention of variance for density. There's no variance before you today. I think you all understand the concept and the terminology. And the last point about the infrastructure being built, make the developer build the infrastructure first. It's built. The roads, we are next to a 4-lane road. I mean, typically, and I made this comment during my presentation, I mean, typically you've got a blank piece of land and the developer builds a road to accommodate it. Right now you have a 4-lane road that goes to the Budweiser distributorship and a school. I mean, you normally wouldn't have a 4-lane road for that. Why is it there? Because it's a DRI, because it was laid out and built at a time anticipating substantial development of one type or the other. We fit within that category today. We have built that, the owners of this land and predecessor owners have built it out. That is why concurrency is vested. It's not just some magic wand. It's because they built a roadway network and infrastructure and contributed. Valid points in terms of traffic elsewhere, getting onto the turnpike, and we always are welcome to joining you to go meet with the county traffic folks or FDOT. I'll go with you and get and get red in the face. We get that, but as far as this project is concerned, that infrastructure is in place. So I thank you all for your time. I would urge you for a positive vote this evening on this NOPC request at first reading, and then, obviously, next month we'll be back, and I trust we'll continue the conversation. Thank you.
Sure. I'm sorry. Hi, I'll make it brief. So thank you for your time. This is, many of you have said it's a tough one. I really appreciate how thorough the questions and your time and effort. And it doesn't matter what side you're on. For everyone in the audience, I do appreciate whether you're for it or against it. I appreciate the commentary. It seems like a lot of this has to do with traffic. And I think, Hugo, you said it. We started in Homestead in 2000. We're committed to the market, not just because we can make a nice return there. We care about our communities. And so I still get calls from people who bought 20 years ago. And by the way, anybody can call me. I have zero issue with that. I invited, actually. I know that we're vested in this community in terms of traffic. But to be a good partner, if there was a contribution that would help on doing something above and beyond, we're prepared to do that. And so I don't know if you're going to engage in a process to say, hey, how do we fix something that's failing? But we're prepared. If it's a couple $100,000, that of course wouldn't solve all the woes of the world. But I want to be very transparent that we're not here trying to be obstinate and hide behind a previous approval, but to try and do the right thing for the community. So I just wanted to end with that, and thank you for considering this. Okay?
Thank you. Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate those comments because I know that you guys have been here a long time. But it's my job as somebody that sits up here also not to just allow you to bring a product and put it out there. It's my job to ask for improvements or ask what I think is the best thing for the community, whether I'm for or against. I always try to improve whatever the product is. And that's my point for tonight, is to do that, is to make sure that the citizens, whether it's the new ones that may move in there and come down here to enjoy what we have, or the ones that have been here for 20 years, as some of these people that spoke tonight, It's to make sure that whatever product is put there is the best product that we can get out of whomever is there putting the product on the property. Just real quick, the threat of a large dade-land, I think it's been referred to tonight, is kind of hilarious to me, because we all know that those type of facilities are a dying breed. So to use that as a reference point, I think is a bad taste, because there is no development like that going to come over there. It's too far removed from a major thoroughfare, and the project would never survive there. So to use that as a threat over towards some people, I think is just ludicrous and really in bad taste, and I'll leave it at that.
Seeing no additional comments or questions, you don't have any closing statements?
No,
Okay, then
sir.
at this point, I'll entertain a motion. Moved to approve it by Councilwoman Fairclough.
Just a point of clarification.
Go
This
ahead.
is the first reading. They have to come back to us for a second reading on this, just for everybody in the audience. Just
Correct.
that they have to come back to us. Thank you.
All right, so a motion to approve by Councilwoman Fairclough. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Maldonado. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Fairclough? Yes. Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado? Vice Mayor Burgess?
No.
Mayor Shelley?
No.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Good evening.
Tab 13.
Yes, excuse me, tab 13 is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving the rezoning of an approximately 25-foot portion of a .61 acre parcel from Liberal Business B3 zoning district to government property GP zoning district for property owned by the Homestead Community Redevelopment Agency located at 301 Civic Court as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Staff report.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We recommend the mayor and council approve the proposed ordinance requesting the rezoning of the 25-foot portion of about .61 acres of parcel of land from Liberal Business B3 to government property. It's a bit of a cleanup item. When we did the rezoning across the street for near the college a while back, there was a little strip of land that was left, and it was an ambiguous title. We didn't now own it outright, so we couldn't get it rezoned. So we cleared the title, own it outright, and are rezoning it through this, so it's just housekeeping.
Okay. Any questions from council? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I'll open to the public. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Seeing no additional questions or comments, do I have a motion? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Vice Mayor Burgess. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado? Councilwoman Fairclough? Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 14.
Tab 14 is the first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 30 zoning, Article 2 Administration, Division 2 Procedures for Zoning Amendments, Special Exception Permits, Plan Unit Developments, Submittals, and Variances, Section 30-42 Variances by modifying the scope and applicability of code provisions available for variance applications, providing for inclusion in the code, severability, conflicts, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Staff report.
Yes. Yes, sir. We're recommending approval of the proposed ordinance amending the zoning code. What we're trying to do here is that we are desiring the ability to get into have flexibility when we're working with applicants to improve the type of development within the private developments. And what we found was with signs and roads and things of that nature that we don't have the ability necessarily to vary those types of things, and their rights of ways are set. By varying them with signs, we're able to get different things out there. With roads, more landscaping, that. So this gives us flexibility to vary everything within an envelope of the development. Aside from that, we're able to match the rights of way that exist on the public roads, which oftentimes, not rights of way, but pavement widths. Either way, so we're recommending approval. If you have any questions, we're here to answer.
Perfect. Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, this is a public hearing. I'll open to the public. Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve it? Moved by Vice Mayor Burgess. Seconded by either Councilwoman Faircloth or Councilwoman Bailey. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Guzman? Yes. Councilwoman Faircloth?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado? Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 15. Who is this, Matt?
Mayor, Administrative Support Consultants LLC is requesting the mayor and council authorize the city manager to approve a waiver of usage fees in the amount of $500 for the use of FICO Williams Community Center on Friday, April 12, 2019. They're hosting a first annual I Care to Listen fundraiser, dinner and dance as part of their I Care About Health weekend in order to raise $10,000, which will be donated to 4 nonprofit organizations in South Florida that help promote health in minority underserved communities. Administrative Support Consultants LLC is a nonprofit organization.
Any questions or comments from council? Councilwoman Faircloth.
Do we have a representative here?
That was my next question. Is anybody here from the organization?
Here, but the situation came up and they had to leave. Just to let you know.
Maybe you know the answer, I don't know. Maybe Councilman Bailey, have you met with this organization? Okay, I just had a quick question. Do you know the 4 nonprofit organizations that will be beneficiaries or recipients of this fundraiser?
No, I did not. I did not hear who they were, but I've known a lot of the people on this board, and over the last year or so, I've seen them do some really great things.
Are they local?
They are mostly based out of Richmond Heights, but they have been trying to bring things further south. They helped with the art walk last year. That was the first time that I met them. So I would be excited to see what they do, because so far all I've seen are great things.
I think perhaps there can be some support from the dais as opposed to us administratively waiving the usage fees. That's how we've pretty much operated in the past. The applicant isn't here to answer the questions, to speak with specificity. So perhaps if my colleagues would like to band together and support it, I think we should take that route.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Roth?
Yes, I have no problem with that, but during the vetting period, are they a not-for-profit or are they a 501c3? So they're not a registered 501c3 with the federal government, just a state of Florida non-for-profit. We can get that answer some other time if we need to.
I don't, it's not on the letter that they gave us, but I mean, usually we check with them and usually we make sure they're 501.
Right, and I think one of the questions we always ask, are they charging an admittance or an entry fee or anything, or is this free to the public?
It's a fundraiser.
I'm sorry, say that again, sir.
Yeah, this is a fund, it looks like it's a fundraiser where they're actually going to charge to get in, hold a fundraiser, raise money, and then take that money and then distribute it out to other not-for-profits.
Okay. That's all, thanks, Mayor.
Perfect, yeah, because historically, I have not supported necessarily us waiving fees for not-for-profit to come in. Same thing with the Rotary, we had them pay their fee and their share to, if they're going to hold that type of a pay-for event.
Right, so I think, as Councilwoman Faircloth said, we'll handle it from the dais and move it along.
Perfect.
Yeah, I got no problems helping them out.
Right.
All right.
Perfect. Councilwoman Bailey.
I just wanted to ask real quick, Dennis, what would the total be for the space they're requesting?
500?
Oh, it is 500, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. So we have a consensus that together we'll find a way, but we'll remove that from the agenda. Tab 16.
Tab 16 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving purchase of eco-friendly dog park equipment from TerraBound Solutions for Roscoe Warren Municipal Park and James Archer Smith Park, recognizing the exemption from formal competitive bidding pursuant to City Code Section 2-411.1A7, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Staff report.
Staff recommends the mayor and council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase Green Paws eco-friendly dog park equipment from TerraBound Solutions for the dog parks located at Roscoe Warren Park, Municipal Park, and James Archer Smith Park for a total of $38,142.
Seeing no questions or comments from council, this is a public hearing open to the public. Any questions or comments from the public? Please state your name and address for the record.
Kim Hill. I just want to get some clarity on this in one sense or whatever. So we're discussing building something for the dogs in Roscoe Warren Park. Is that correct? You can't answer me, right? So we're discussing building something for the dogs, Mr. Maldonado. We're discussing building something for the dogs, Ms. Bailey, and it's on a tab, but we can't get body cameras, to come on a tab for African Americans. So we're gonna do it for the dogs, but we ain't gonna do it for the African Americans, Ms. Fairclough. We're gonna do it for the dogs. And there's signs that say, save the manatee, save the whale, save the panther, but nothing says save the Negro. We have to do that, and we have to speak up for it. And I don't see how that supersedes us discussing a body camera. So I understand, Mr. Shelley, this may be a little bit off base, but I just had to step up and say something when that can make and get on a tab opposed to a body camera. Ms. Fairclough, you should be the first one speaking up when it comes to that particular issue. Hi, Mr. Guzman. You seem like to be a man of color, and I expect for you to be able to make that distinction. How you get on a tab for a dog, but yet 3 years, a body camera, our dash cam, can't come to a tab. Thank you very much.
Any additional questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Vice Mayor Burgess. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth? Councilwoman Fairclough? Yes. Councilman Maldonado? Councilman Guzman? Councilwoman Bailey? Vice Mayor Burgess? Ms. Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 17.
Tab 17 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead authorizing the city manager to facilitate a transition for the provision of library services from Miami-Dade County to the City of Homestead, providing for notification, providing for implementation, and for an effective date.
Staff report.
In 1974, the city entered into an interlocal agreement with Miami-Dade County to facilitate the city's participation in the Miami-Dade County Library System. On October 26, 1976, the city and county approved an amended agreement updating and providing clarification to the interlocal agreement, which provides a procedure for the city to cancel the amended interlocal agreement if so desired. Staff recommends that the mayor and council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to coordinate the transition of library services from the current county library facility to the future city library facility in accordance with the provisions of the amended interlocal agreement.
Seeing no questions or comments from council, this is a public hearing. I'll now open it to the public. Any questions or comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, please state your name and address for the record.
Associated with the transfer from the county facility to the city facility? Is there a cost associated? I had read some time ago that there would be or could possibly be a cost associated with the leaving of the issue up to the city rather than the county.
Yeah, I'll get to the answer for in a second. Any additional questions or comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Manager, do you want to answer that question or just clarify the process?
Sure. The city's in the process of finalizing the plans and going, I guess at the April 9th meeting, April 9th, right, Kate? Okay, April 9th meeting, we'll be bringing to you a construction contract for the construction of the building plus the FF&E contract. So for all of Phase 1 of the Cyberry project. Phase 1 is estimated to be around $16 million all in. We won't know for sure until we have finalize the negotiations and bring you the contract for that meeting. So the cost is to construct the facility, and then in terms of the operations, the intent would be for the city to discontinue its membership in the county library district, and then basically transfer those revenues over to a city library fund. And that's what we're asking for tonight, is the authority from the mayor and council to, in essence, finalize a transition plan with the county so that we don't have any interruption in service from the time that the county closes their doors and we open our doors. Our first meeting is tomorrow with the county to finalize those details, and then we're required to provide notice to the county by April 1st. So what we wanted was your general authorization to do that, and then we'll come back to you for ratification of the agreement.
Thank you. Seeing no additional questions or comments from my colleagues, do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Councilwoman Fairclough, seconded by Councilman Roth. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Maldonado? Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fairclough? Yes. Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Next is public comment. The first public comment card I have here is for Nicholas Bocanegra. Please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nicholas Bocanegra. I reside in 585 Southeast 32nd Terrace in Isles the Oasis. I'm approaching the Council. I'm a proud member of the City of Homestead. I've invested my family, myself, my wife and I are both educators here. We work at Somerset Academy. I teach third grade. But I'm approaching you as the president of the South Dade Immortals. We're a local nonprofit developmental football program. We use the sport of football as a mentorship to guide young adults between the ages of 18 and 24. We started in 2015 with about an 18-man roster in my little red wagon. So now we have 51-man roster. We lost in overtime in the championship. And we actually play here at Harris Field. Everything that we've done so far is on sheer will and faith in the belief that I can provide an opportunity for young men that nobody wants to give an opportunity to. I have a few of my players behind me and a parent. These guys have either failed the education system, they failed the criminal justice system, and in some ways society's kind of closing the door on them. But I'm that man that kind of created something through the sport of football. And if you're familiar with sports, you know the opportunities it could bring forward. So with that being said, I just approach you guys to introduce myself, let you guys know what's going on here in the city of Homestead. We're the only football team in a 35-mile radius. We're pretty much one of the most recognized minor league football teams in the state of Florida. We're growing. We just hit a record of 310 fans in attendance at Harris Field. We work with the South Dade Marching Band. We're the only developmental football program that's affiliated with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I'm a proud member of the South Dade Chambers of Commerce. I'm doing everything in my power to reinvent the wheel of what semi-pro football is, of what minor league football is. And I take great pride to be a member of the city of Homestead and to say that the South Dade Immortals are going to be that platform for these young men to give them an opportunity that they probably will never get again. Whether if they age out, if they drop out, whatever the case is, they get injured. We're getting connected with the local high schools to get these guys to come play through us, provide film, provide exposure, but most importantly, provide guidance and mentorship, because a lot of these guys don't have father figures. They don't have men in their life that could tell them right from wrong. So like I said, I just want to approach you guys, introduce myself. We have a game April 6th. You're more than welcome to come and join and see it for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. I think got Councilman Roth first. Would you like to, Councilman Roth?
I have to gather his contact information and get it to me later on tonight or tomorrow so we can reach out to them and see how we can help them.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Fairclough.
Yes, that's what I wanted as well, is contact information, so that we can follow up and see how we can support the good work that you're doing with these promising young men in our community.
Thank you. Next, I have Kevin Sullivan.
Kevin Sullivan, 1860 Southeast 6th Court. First, I guess I'm shocked. 30 years ago, when I moved into my neighborhood here in Homestead, they told me it was a retirement community. I'm getting close, and now they tell me it's not retirement anymore. I don't know what's going on. But on a more serious note, I've been preaching this same song for 15 years. Everybody on any board in this city should be a city resident. We will have no mix-ups. We would have nobody saying that they didn't report, they move out of town, they're still sitting on. Get rid of it all, make them city residents.
Thank you. Next, Kim Hill.
Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna be a little easy right now. I got a little indigestion that's going on. It's killing me. Somebody up there shook the little voodoo bag on me or poked that little doll. But I want to thank you, Mr. Shelley, for last month. You stopped and you had a long conversation with me. It was a dialogue, not a monologue. But I want to make some corrections because you told the public that we had a discussion on body cameras, a formal discussion, but that didn't take place. So in the future, I'm looking forward to having a discussion and coming with a resolution about this body camera issue, and to be able to have the public be able to view what our politicians actually really think on record. I never heard Ms. Fairclough speak on the body camera. I haven't heard Ms. Bailey speak on the body camera. I've heard conversations. I haven't heard Mr. Maldonado's official position on it. And I think the public deserves to hear their official position. But I look forward to new beginnings with you, Mr. Shelley. As I told you out there, at one particular time I had a keen interest in you, and we waver every now and then. But look forward to having an open dialogue and being able to make our city move in a progressive manner. Mr. City Manager, over there in Durrell, that city manager stepped up for those residents. And I'm looking forward to seeing you have some form of comment about this. We can't be afraid of the PBA. They waffle. At one particular time, the PBA, John Rivera, was recommending Mr. Rowe be fired. Then, right now, you all are stepping up afraid because of the PBA and body cameras. So we have to make a decision. Politics is going to act as an expedient. Cowardness is going to act as it safe. But morality will always ask the question, is it right? And I have relatives who fought in Vietnam, Korean War, and Desert Storm. They were 100% citizens over there. But now, in the city of Homestead, when it comes to getting on this tab, they're 50% citizens. So we want to be true Americans and let this democratic process take place. We've long dug the wells of democracy. Now we want to take a drink out of them. Thank you all.
Thank you. Next is Willie Womble.
Again, Mr. Mayor, it's good to be able to come before you again this month. I know we did speak about this issue a couple of months ago, and I heard that after the meeting that you said this was discussed. I'd like to have a public debate on whether or not the city of Homestead should equip its officers with body cameras. We see on Facebook or any of the social media networks issues in which sometimes policemen are accused of things that they haven't done. And body cameras sometimes save those officers from from losing their job. That's the bottom line. That's most important, is that they continue their jobs. And when that happens, we're grateful that we had video evidence to make transparent those issues that were complained about by the citizens in which officers didn't commit. And sometimes we see good things that officers do on a daily basis through body cameras. We're not just talking about negative things, such as the individual who was acquitted last week of shooting a man lying on his back in broad daylight. We're not talking about that only. We're talking about that, yes, because we want those issues to be brought to light, and we want to be able to have the transparency to see exactly what happened, because we, the public, support our policemen. We, the public, also support our rights as citizens. So we want body cameras, Mr. Mayor, for the transparency that it presents. And it also is a cost-saving measure for the city of Homestead and the other municipalities that already have it. That issue is not yet to be addressed, the cost-saving measures. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Natalie Rowe. Is she still here? No? Okay. And then I have some green cards that typically are for the agenda items, but in case anyone got confused, I'll pull them out as well. So is there Robert Bailey? No. Bill Tebow already spoke. Thomas Penos? He spoke, okay. I think so that's all I have for public comment. I'll now close the public comment. Business from the city manager.
Okay. One is congratulations to Chief Roll. Chief Roll was chosen for induction into the 2019 Miami-Dade College Alumni Hall of Fame for outstanding contributions to the field of law enforcement. So congratulations to you, Chief. And the induction will be April 9th on Tuesday, 2019. So congratulations for that. And to our Assistant City Manager, Kate McCaffrey. She's going to hate me with this, but she ran the New York City Half Marathon, 13 miles. And there were 24,645 people that ran that race, and she placed 10,646, and in her age category, number 4. Number 4. So congratulations.
No claps, no clapping, no clapping. We have to keep the rules uniform.
I had to break the rule just once for Kate. Okay.
Have them escort you all out.
Thank you.
That all, city manager? Okay, business from the city attorney.
Just a couple. I know how you love them. I need an executive session for Hing v. City of Homestead and Brightview. It's case number 2018-016705 in the 11th Judicial Circuit for Miami-Dade County. City of Homestead v. Newport LTD, case number 2013-039665 in the 11th Judicial Circuit for Miami-Dade County. And Lester Brown v. the City of Homestead, case number 2017-014137, also in the 11th Judicial Circuit for Miami-Dade County. And I'm all set. Thanks.
Thank you. Reports from mayor and council. Councilwoman Faircloth.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to announce that April 27th, we will host our next session of STEM Saturdays. The students will be building mechanical lungs, replica lungs, and dissecting actual lungs. So if any residents out there have school-aged children, please bring them to the FICO Williams Community Center. Our last session was incredible. We reached capacity, and we look forward to another great session as our students practice being pulmonologists and engaged in STEM-related careers. I'd also like to acknowledge one of my constituents and fellow Education Committee members, Brenda Ramirez. She's being proposed for appointment to the Planning and Zoning Board. She's very active in this community. She's dedicated. She shows up, and I will be supporting that appointment on tonight. And Mr. Gretzes, we recognize your leading ladies in the city of Homestead, and I thank you for allowing and appointing these ladies to lead. When women lead, we lead well. We come with a different perspective and we add value to the conversation. So thank you for allowing these ladies to have a seat at the table. Happy Women's History Month to everyone in the city of Homestead. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mayor. I too wanted to congratulate our chief. His career spans, 35 years in the city of Homestead as a police officer? How many? 40 years. It took that long for somebody to recognize you, huh? I just want to say congratulations. I mean, what's transpired with our force, and I see it every day. I listen to the scanner. I chase these guys around. I show up at calls, not only in Homestead, but down in Florida City as well. I know there was an incident last weekend or last week where one of our officers got into a scuffle with someone. He got away. I understand our officers finally caught that guy, brought him to jail, and I'm sure he was wanted for many, many crimes. So it's leadership like yours. It's leadership like the city managers that keeps making this city proud. And I just want to say congratulations on your accomplishments and everything you've done for our city for over 40 years. Thank you, Chief. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been helping this very bright young man in our community. He didn't make the basketball team twice in high school, and instead of getting upset, well, I'm sure he was upset, but instead of looking at it in a negative way, he decided to do something bigger and better, and he started a group called BYOL. He is going to be hosting his first tournament, which unfortunately is the same day as STEM Saturday. I will be going back and forth because it was an amazing thing. It is called Bigger Than Basketball. I want to thank Dennis for looking into helping me try to get the scoreboards working again, and encourage you all, if you're fans of basketball, to go out and support this. We will have food, and he's incorporating a little bit of a community involvement aspect where kids can get some ideas on different things that they could be in the community. So it sounds like a really, really great thing for us. And lastly, thank you to the lovely ladies of Main Street for hosting the carnival event this weekend. I almost felt like I was back in Aruba. It was really cool. It was very authentic. If you have missed it in the past, they just keep getting better and better. It's really fun. So thank you to them for that amazing thing for our community. And congrats, Chief, as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, congratulations from me as well, and our community. You know, our community has had a great opportunity to hire off-time officers, and they always speak well of your staff, and that is obviously something that comes from leadership. So I want to thank you and congratulate you for your appointment, or not appointment, but your recognition. So congratulations. Second to staff, I don't see well, we got Public Works here. Question about the road, 137th Avenue, which is our side. I know that there's a Miami-Dade County side, but this is a question on our side. I've noticed that, have we been able to drive down that road and take a look at it and see what the condition is of that road at any time lately? The reason is that I've seen that you could tell that that road is in need of repair. So I'm wondering if you guys have looked at it, considered if there's anything on schedule in regards to that road?
I will follow up on that. I don't have any information right now, but I will follow up on
Okay, thank you. That'd be it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Guzman, survived your first month as a councilman and your first council meeting somewhat unscathed, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also wanted to congratulate Chief Roll. I went over to his office today and congratulated him personally because I wanted to take a minute and start to have conversations with some of our staff, and I could start to understand exactly how it all plays a role so that our city continues to be a really great city. So I look forward to meeting more of the staff so we can sit down and have a conversation. And it was tough to get my head around one of the specific tabs today, but we did it, we made it through. And again, I'm glad to be up here with you guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I've got several items here. Let me get my trusty notes out. I guess, Chief, this would be towards you in the traffic unit, Lieutenant Acosta, perhaps. Over right there by Anne Marie's shop, they've called me with concerns because of the number of wrecks out there. So I was wondering if at that intersection with the stop signs being on the side road but not on Washington, if Lieutenant Acosta could maybe look at the troubles that have been there that they've asked us to look at and see if there's any remedy to the number of accidents that could be. I know I would appreciate it, and I know they would appreciate it more because they say that it's worrisome to them out there to see the amount of wrecks. I don't know how many, but they called me with concerns. Okay. I know, I'm just, they had a concern, so I'm just following up. So if Lieutenant, maybe he could even stop by and talk with the ladies there and reassure them of what we're trying to do and what's happening there. So I certainly would appreciate it. I noticed with the new development, the Lenore people have left, unfortunately. But over there at Kingman and Mowry, where they've built the new sidewalks, there's no sidewalk ramp for a handicapped person to do a wheelchair or a bicyclist to enter on and off of the highway, which to me seems odd that that would have been built that way per the plans, because that doesn't go to code. So if we could reach out to them or whomever, because it's a hazard right now. I see the kids riding their bikes off the edge and they're going to hit the road or they're going to crash or whatever, or somebody in a wheelchair, which are several people over there, and tend to travel further south down. Now that that sidewalk goes the whole way, they can't cross that road to get from one side of Kingman where Mowry enters into Kingman there. So if we could look at that and perhaps see what needs to be done to remedy that issue, I would appreciate it. Hold on, one more thing. The real estate signs over there, I know I spoke to Crystal and she was going to look up and see, but if we could get perhaps those people to reel it in a little bit. It's starting to look like for lack of a better term, a used car lot with the amount of flags and signs that they're sticking in the ground over there. I know that years ago we had conversations with them along Kingman and limited them to maybe like 3 flags per property and that. But they seem to keep expanding as their projects get bigger and become more. And the one project is completely sold out, so perhaps we can even get them to remove their stuff, because technically they're not allowed to, or not supposed to be selling to other projects off of that property. So if we could do that. And then one last thing is I've noticed certain private properties, shopping centers or whatever, businesses that do a great job of keeping their areas clean. The DDR does that over there. They're out there cleaning and pressure washing almost every morning when I go over to the gym. And I know the Oasis Publix, but then if you go to the Oasis CVS or the Oasis Walgreens, it's like somebody took a dumpster and dumped them out there. So perhaps if code enforcement could step up on these properties and let them know, hey, a better looking property helps yourself and the city. I certainly would appreciate it. And with that, I would say one last thing. Dennis, I noticed that dumpsters seem to be just set in disarray. Maybe we could make sure that the drivers are putting them back to more inconspicuous places where they're not so obvious and kind of eyesores, because we all know that they're a necessity. And in the past, we didn't have in the code where they had to build a required spot for them. But I see them stuck here, and they're out to the edge of the property where, everybody drives by and sees them. And the trash doesn't always get made into them and stuff like that, and then it just goes everywhere. So if we could just refresh with those guys, hey, let's try to, put them in a less conspicuous place, it would be appreciated. And Chief, thank you for all that you've done for us down here, and congratulations, well-deserved award that you're going to get to. Hopefully I'll be able to attend it. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just have one item, and I have some appointments as well, but I do have a question about the acoustics here in the chamber, because I know I have a hard time sometimes following and hearing some of the speakers and some of the conversations. I don't know if it's worse out there. Yeah, so I think it is worse out there than it is here. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, because even I have a hard time up here on the dais as I'm getting older now. My hearing's starting to go. And so it's something that I want to I think we need to address, I know when we were at the old place back at the Dickinson Center, you know, we had someone that was actually manually controlling that so that as somebody that got up and spoke that had a soft voice, they would raise the volume level, and as the next person came up that had a loud voice, they might lower the volume level. Is that something that's possible with this system or something we can look into? Because I know I have a really hard time, and I've heard a lot of complaints for others that are out there, and I really want to make sure that, you know, we're having these meetings, that they're able to follow along, that people aren't having to struggle, a hard time to hear what's going on, so.
Just that, this is very dark. I get complaints about that's very dark to read up there, too.
Oh, the dark screen? Okay, I've not looked at that as well, so add that to the list of complaints, is the screen may also be dark. So just something to look into as we go forward for some future meetings, so. And then on my list here, I have appointments. I have appointments to the Planning and Zoning Board and 2 appointments to the Homestead Housing Authority that are reappointments, and a removal from the Planning and Zoning Board, a Nicholas Roldan, who I think resigned. I can take these all up at once, correct? I don't need to do them individually? So, and do I have a motion to approve or remove the 1 board member? Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes carry. It's all my business. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor, aye. We are adjourned.